compromise, saying, "Arey bhai, ye kaand ho gaya, ye hack ho gaya, ye compromise ho gaya, ye data ye ho gaya." So we know those indicators, and based on those indicators, after the kaand has happened, after the act has happened, those are indicators of compromise, and our policies and our it was more a reactive mode. This happened, and then this is my reaction to it. So that was the IOC world, or the indicators of compromise world. Of course, the network was rigid, high cost. Again, cost is something that I would personally beg to differ. That cost reduction. We are in the transition phase, so the cost remains high. So this is where the transition is happening. The complexity is there. The complexity was there, is there. Our aspiration is that it will not be there in future. Cost was high, remains high. Our aspirations is that it will, we know it will, but it will take time. It is a journey. So we have to enjoy this journey right now, but the end result of this journey is cost will reduce, complexity will reduce, difficulty in managing will go. And of course, regulatory and all those things are right now there because of cloud and all that. So where will we go? What is the end game here? Is we will have a zero trust. No, back to the slide, please. Yeah. Where will we reach? We will reach a distributed and zero trust based network. So basically, it means that it will be user and data focused. Doesn't matter where your user is. He could be in the swanky glass building, or he could be sitting on his bed. Doesn't matter, or standing in the bedroom like I am doing right now. Doesn't matter where the user is. Doesn't matter where the data is. That transaction, when the user is touching the data, that transaction, or that consumption is a better word. So when that user is consuming the data, irrespective of where the user is and irrespective of where the data is, the data could be in cloud, you could be VPNing into your data center, and the data could be in your VPN, or it could be in your laptop. So it doesn't matter where the data is, doesn't matter whether the data is in MOVE or in transit or news, wherever the user is, whenever there is a data consumption, wherever the data is, that transaction needs to be secure. And that is where the end game is. That is where SASE will that is aspirational, and that is where we intend to take you in this journey. Operations will become simplified. Yes, obviously, once we have a very little footprint left on our offices, on-prem footprint reduces, so operations will become a lot more simplified. Most of these solutions will also mature over a period of time. And one big difference is going to be the IOC. IOC, what we use the Delhi word, right? Kaand hone ke baad. So the IOC is more like kaand hone ke baad, but then that's not what we want. That's not our aspiration. Our aspiration is kaand hone ke pehle. Technology aisa hona chahiye, like Google does, right? Google says how to. The moment I say how to, Google tells me many things. That also tells a lot about what this person has searched before. So when Google can anticipate what I'm going to search, when Facebook can anticipate, why not cybersecurity anticipate that there is a kaand that is going to happen? This guy has done this. He's likely to be a threat, and can we adapt based on the current risk? So indicators of compromise, in a way, should become more mature and become something a little more modern. Agile, cloud, cost reduction, I think we have touched upon that. So Akshay, time to move to the next slide. Yeah. So like we said, there is workplace security, which will transform to workforce security, and there are 3 phases. There's a current phase, there's a transition phase, and there will be a future phase. In the current phase, of course, you need to continue to invest in your firewalls, your threat detection, rule-based DLPs will continue. So all that will continue. And in the transition, of course, it is what we mean when we say bi-direction is you will have some of this. So you will go. And the workforce cybersecurity, in terms of building blocks, one of the key building blocks is going to be CARTA. Continuous assessment, risk assessment, continuous assessment of risk and threat assessment. I think that's what CARTA stood for, right? Today, I think CARTA has kind of metamorphosed into SASE and zero trust, but then CARTA was the father of this concept. That's where it began. So CARTA essentially means that in very simple languages, you have a VPN and you enter your data center. using your VPN, you're basically doing a layer 3 connection. And at a layer 3 connection, once you're authenticated, once you're established your tunnel, you are into the network. And then depending on your skill, you can do whatever you want. But in a Kata framework, or in a zero trust framework, or in a SASE framework, all these converge somewhere. So I'm trying to encourage you to think that they all are different, but they all converge. So somewhere these things will not give you a layer 3 connection. They'll give you a layer 7 connection. And once there's a layer 7 connection, every time you click your mouse and try to consume some data, there will be assessment of who you are, what you are trying to do, what you did in the past, what are you doing right now, are you allowed to do this? If you are allowed, what should be done? Remember, there is no black and white, right? You block and allow. Those days are gone. Rule based is gone. So everything will become subjective. It will be context based. So that's what those are some of the things that we will look into today. Risk adaptive responses, again, risk adaptive responses is let me just take an example of person A and B. Say A and B are consuming a particular data. Let me use it like this. They're consuming a particular data. If you're not able to wrap your mind around what consumption means, let us say they're downloading something onto their pen drive, very crudely put. So when they're consuming a data, A and B could be doing exactly the same consumption, but A could have done a lot more things, and A could be a lot more riskier than B. So if you just look at A and B consuming that data with a magnified lens, and if you just look at that activity, then you are in for a surprise, because you might allow that. That's not what we want. We want the risk to be adaptive. What do we mean by risk to adapt? Is A and B could be consuming the same data, but A could have had a lot of historical background or geographical background. I'll come to what this history and what this geography is. But remember, A and B are different people. So A and B are different people, but they're consuming the same data, and they have to be treated differently. They cannot be treated the same. So as of now, on this slide, let us understand that when A and B are consuming a particular data, or they say, let me go a little crude again and say if they're downloading a particular file onto their pen drive. So when they're consuming that particular data, they cannot and they should not be treated same, because they are not same. So with that, let's move on to the next slide and try to put in a little more clarity to what we are saying. A little bit abstract slide to a little more direct slide on the screen type of it. So workplace security largely consisted of DLP solutions on-prem, insider threat solutions. It consists of advanced malware detection. Either you had a file looking a FireEye solution, or you had something looking at on the cloud, or you had a firewall, you had a web security, or you had a cross-domain solution. All these are essentially hardcore on-prem solutions. They were all built with on-prem in mind. They continue to be in use today. They continue to be, though these are traditional cybersecurity elements, they are continuing to be used. On the transition phase, we have the zero trust content, CDR and RBI solutions. This is a zero trust content solution, which basically RBI stands for Reserve Bank of India. Yes, it does. It also stands for remote browser isolation. Remote browser isolation, for those of you who haven't heard of this, is my voice is not audible. Okay, let me come closer and shout. So RBI stands for remote browser isolation. Remote browser isolation, for those of you who haven't heard of this before, is when you're opening a page. Say, supposing you go to www.unknownwebsite.com. When you go to this website and your web security solution has determined that this is an unknown page, and it is suspicious, but then based on your policy, based on your content, it allows you to open that page. Now that page can get compromised after you open that page. That we know how these things work, right? So when the assessment was happening, it was clean page, but later on it got compromised, or a mail came that had a link which was clean and then got compromised. We know all that stories, right? So once that happens, RBI is a great solution. What RBI does is whenever you consume that page, it will not render, or it will not open in your machine. Instead, it will open in a sanitized, quarantined environment. These are words that we all understand very well now: sanitized, quarantined. So a sanitized, quarantined environment, it will open up there in the cloud, and there a screenshot of that will be presented to you. So if there is a malware hiding in the ads, or if there is a some vulnerability in IOBs being, or some other technologies being misused, and if there is a malware or a payload being packed into that website, which if you had clicked it otherwise, it could have landed into your machine, that can be avoided by simply opening the page in a sanitized, quarantined environment, and then a screenshot of that is presented to you. So RBI is a great solution, a great tool, which works along with the web security solutions and DLP solutions, with the email security solutions. So whenever there's an email, you click a link. If it is suspicious, it opens in a quarantined environment, and that kind of gives you a lot of control over what page, what is happening. Again, zero trust network access, firewall as a service. I think this is something that I'm sure you have heard of, and this is and zero trust web security solutions, which again is straightforward, irrespective of wherever you are. Your web security, your web access is controlled by policy, is controlled and sanitized by the policy as governed by the organization. So that's the transition phase. Where do we want to finally reach, or what is our goal? So now I'm getting a little bit into the Forcepoint SASE, right? Till now we spoke about general SASE. Let's go a little into what is Forcepoint SASE. The Forcepoint vision of SASE is it is a data-first SASE, meaning to say, wherever the data resides, doesn't matter. The data could be in, does RBI create latency? Obvious answer, yes, but it is in milliseconds or microseconds and negligible to a common user. Until unless you are a sophisticated user running some tools and you're seeing how many milliseconds of hop happen, you're adding a hop, it will have latency, obviously. But with the given bandwidth today, and given the user experience, so when your users will not complain, they will not even know. A normal user, I mean. Everybody's normal, right? So all of us will not know. So next generation data protection, DUP. So where was I? I was in the data protection, right? So data protection SASE, doesn't matter where the data resides. The data could be on cloud, the data could be in your laptop, it could be in use, it could be in rest, it could be in motion, it could be wherever, or it could be in your data center, you are VPNing, whatever, wherever the data is, the data needs to be protected. Whenever a user is consuming the data, whenever the user is touching the data, that transaction needs to be protected. Again, we have touched upon this. This cannot be done in absolutely, CP Gupta. So next generation data protection, this is something that we will be doing a deep dive into, right? I'm just trying to tease you by giving you some pointers. My much learned colleague and Akshay Garg will be walking you through this, will be giving you a demo of this, will be going through a much more detail on both of these technologies. So with that, without risking the stealing of the thunder portion, so I'll move on to the next slide. Akshay, I'm tempted to say so many things, but then okay, I have one more slide. So let me talk about this slide. So after this slide, Akshay comes in. And so basically, this is a summary of what we have spoken so far, right? So on your far left, you have what is written as risk adaptive approach. In simple words, right? This is a jargon. I took a long time to understand what exactly this meant, but to simplify it, oversimplify it, this is your activity. There's a human, there's a brain, his brain is working, he is doing something. So let's understand this as a user is working, he is doing something. Or in other words, a user is consuming data. On his laptop, he's working, he's consuming data. He's VPNing into the data center, he's consuming data. He is on the cloud, he's accessing cloud applications, or he's browsing the internet, or he's on Facebook, he's still consuming data. Essentially, he's touching data, he's consuming data. So that is the activity, user activity. So once that user activity is on, what we do is every time the user touches a data, or every time there is a data consumption, our technology will go and qualify the risk of what that meant. Let's take examples, right? Let's take example A and example B. So example A, person A. So person A has been visiting some job sites, has been, you can argue saying, I always search jobs on my personal laptop like I do. So you can always argue. But then if you're downloading copious amounts of data, which you generally don't, then it is A. So let us assume A is a person who is copying abnormal amounts of data, which he normally doesn't do. And there is B who has not done anything such thing. When A and B are doing a same act of consuming the same file, the risk quantification for both these people will be different, because they have historically been doing different things. Historically, I meant is A has, in the past few days or past few minutes or past few months, has been downloading things which he was not supposed to be doing. Hence, his risk is higher than B, who is consuming the same data, but he has been a clean guy in the last 6 months. Hence, his risk is low to the organization. So this is one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is, let us assume A and B both belong to two different departments. A belongs to finance and B belongs to my favorite, marketing. So A belongs to finance, B belongs to marketing, but they are consuming the same data. Now again, historically they both might be clean, but they belong to different pool of users. A is a finance guy and he consuming this data is more riskier than B consuming this data. So these are policies and these are configurations that we build with the business and build over a period of time. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is risk quantification happens based on what you have done historically and what you are doing geographically. When I say geographically, depending on which pool of users you belong to finance and you have done something, your risk is you pose a different risk than somebody from a different department. So this is where we capture the risk quantification, and based on this, you might call it a riskometer, right? So there are various levels that can happen. Based on this, the tools are automated. You can now trigger a firewall and say, the guy A has done something which he's not supposed to do, block him on the firewall. Close him on the firewall, quarantine his machine, close his applications on the end machine. So you can do a host of things on the firewall, on your web security, on your DLP, on the router. So wherever you have controls, you have various control points on the endpoint, on the through an agent. So there are so many places where we can control what this user is doing. So if you remember what I was talking about, Kand, right? Kand hone ke baad is what is IOC. But we want to move, and we are moving to a situation where Kand hone ke pehle. So even before the Kand has happened, even before the act has happened, even before a data consumption which is not supposed to is going to happen, we can control it by triggering policy changes automatically. Automatically, we can block that guy on the firewall. So that's what we will be looking at today. That's the automation part of it. So again. It is not a black and white solution. It is a continuum solution. This is what Karta also spoke about in the beginning, and this is what is Karta, ladies and gentlemen. This slide, if you understood, this is Karta. So Karta is where based on your act, so A and B were people trying to consume exactly the same data, but because of their historical and geographical issues, A could be allowed, but B could be blocked or prevented, or something in between can happen, like allow and alert the user, alert his boss, alert the SOC, alert somebody, or record the session. That's another beautiful feature, right, which we have, is you allow, but you start doing a screen capture of what this guy is doing. So for later forensics as to what happened and things like that. Allow but read only is, again, you can only read this file. Encrypt is another beautiful feature. You allow but encrypt, and assuming he's copying some data on the pen drive, so you encrypt it using your domain. So if he takes the pen drive and gives it to his friend who works in the same organization, that friend will be able to decrypt and access that data, but he gives it to his other friend, or let's call it girlfriend now, or other friend who works in a different organization. The machine belongs to a different domain. That machine will not be able to decrypt that data because the key is not there. So you can do industry specific or domain specific encryption. And of course, there is way to ask for more context, where you can step up authentication. You can ask for a fingerprint if that is there, or you can ask for OTP, or you can ask for you can challenge him with more questions. block, quarantine, block, prevent. So these are various options available which you can automate. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, this is the crux of what we want to talk about today. Is you do your activity, your users do your activity. Every activity that they do is quantified based on historical and geographical considerations, and based on that we can trigger automated policy controls without human intervention, and that need not be black and white. It can be a continuum of actions that we can take. With that, I hope I have set enough curiosity in your mind. I haven't answered all questions. So Akshay, over to you.
Hey Ajay, great session. Before we transfer it to Akshay, there are 4 or 5 questions in the Q&A tab related to your session. So let's take those questions and then we'll transfer to Akshay. Will that be okay?
Absolutely. I just have one thumb rule when I handle questions is I take all easy questions, and tough questions Akshay will do.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so the question 1 says, at high level, SASE seems to be an appropriate solution for the protection of end users who work either from office or from home. Checking how does it help for production workloads and data coming from upstream to prod. So I believe this question is majorly regarding the IaaS workloads, where the data is being stored and heavily used for multiple application hosting and other things. So SASE solutions are designed where, Ajay has rightly mentioned that if you are touching the user and if you're touching the data, then the application in between is one thing which will definitely be touched upon, because without touching the application, you will not be processing that data. So definitely the SASE platforms are being configured in a way where you have got those capabilities where any data movement happening from your workloads, to and fro from your workloads, or from your production machines to your workloads, or from applications to workloads, all the data exchanges will be some way or the other will be seen and can be controlled in one way or the other. So there are different ways to do that. Maybe there could be a CSPM or a governance piece which can tell you about the overall application configuration, as well as some data scanning capabilities where it can provide you the details about that, what kind of data is lying where, and you can simply control that data wherever it is lying. So whether it is on the machine of the user, or somewhere on the network, or somewhere on your workloads, or on the application. So all the things can integrate in a single platform where you can get visibility that what data is lying where and where it can go and where it cannot. So in this way, it's not a very, I would say, a clear road to that, but there are different ways to achieve this use case. But yes, it is achievable. Any limitations in the GDPR equivalent regulations when there is a tracking of the user? It's a very good question. I would say yes, there are definite rules and regulations for different geographies. Like if you go to European Union GDPR, and if you go to Americas also, there's there are different. I would say there are different regulations and compliances regarding the user privacy. The solution, and I would have covered it in my further slides, but just to give you an idea, I'll just cover it more in my further slides. But from a solution perspective, we do have those capabilities where we can tweak the solution in a way where the local compliances can be met, where the privacy and data related regulations can be met very, very easily. So our professional services team, our backline teams are very proficient, and they understand that these are the challenges while running these kind of tools. But yes, we are completely equipped to handle these kind of situations where we have to adapt to the situation that yes, local compliance and regulations should be met very, very easily. Definitely some of the features would go away or maybe come down to a level where you will not get 100% of it. But yes, we'll try to do something for you in order to make it workable solution in your regulated and compliance environment.
So depending on the geography, we have done quite a few things for GDPR. Some of those things that we have done in the last 3-4 years is local storage of logs, local storage of all the activity that happens, though it's a global solution. So we have several European customers. So all the logs that get generated, say in France, remain in France. All that happens in India remains in India. So our tools are capable of doing that. Again, some geographies want us to anonymize the logs. So even if you look at the logs, you will not know what John did, what Peter did, what Ram did, what Rahul did. You will only know, a particular user in France did this, a particular user in Germany did this. So we can anonymize that. That is again a GDPR ask that we did in the past few years. Then there have been privacy based, especially things like screen capture and all that. It is a no in certain markets, but in certain markets you can do that with consent. So the organization takes consent from the users. This is what will happen if this triggers, that triggers, screen will be captured, that will happen, chat will be monitored. So all that goes with consent, and based on the local, like Akshay rightly said, based on the local country in-country rules, which are slightly different but more stringent in Europe. These things have been done, and we have several European multinationals present across the world. Akshay.
Right, rightly mentioned. The other question which I'll be taking is it the same? Is it same as UBA? So I would say not exactly the same UBA, because UBA just provides the analysis, or I would say it takes a lot of information, try to combine it, but the actual forensic, the actual activity which is happening on the user machine, or contextualizing that information in an actionable intelligence, that is what a UBA should be doing, and that is what these solutions have been missing for. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to take some part from the UBA solution, and we are trying to take some part from our legacy insider threat solutions, which I'll be covering a little bit in the further slides, to combine both the technologies and giving you a platform where you have the data and forensics to actually do analytics on top of it, everything on the endpoint. So I'll be covering on that, but yes, you can say it's a yes or no, but you have some portion of UBA and you have some portion of data and forensics to cover that analytics piece. How user history?
Sorry, generically this area is called as UAM, user activity monitoring. It's the first cloud-based UAM solution in the market. Akshay.
Yeah. The other question is how user history is captured if user clears this user's history. So it's a different the history or geography which Ajay has just mentioned is something not related to browser history. It's about that what a user is doing digitally on the system, maybe browsing a website, stockpiling data, transferring information from one server to another, accessing applications, maybe on IaaS workloads, accessing a SaaS application. A lot of things happen on a machine. You cannot just say that it's just a browser thing. And even if the browser history is cleaned or any temp files are cleaned, all those are also activities, right? Those are the activities which users do. So those all activities will also be captured by the solution as a forensic, as a system modification, I would say IOB that we'll be discussing today, indicators of behavior, and which will simply result into IOCs, that is indicators of compromise later on. So what we do is, it doesn't matter whether user is deleting the history or he's deleting system files or he's deleting temp file, it doesn't matter. We'll be capturing all those activities in our database, and we'll be analyzing those activities sequentially by combining it with other activities which user is doing. So it's totally doesn't matter whether he deletes anything on that system or not. Are we going to throw some light on how a transition plan from one product family of Forcepoint to the latest one is recommended? Yes, Rajesh, I will discuss a little bit on that front, that if you are currently using one part of a Forcepoint product family, then how you can transition. I'll be covering it in next of my few slides. So there I'll be discussing about SASE approach with respect to Forcepoint product portfolio. And then we have, if you look at the roadmap, can SASE will replace firewall?
Akshay,
I would say.
Sorry to interrupt. Let that be the last question, because people keep putting the questions. Otherwise, we will get into a Q&A mode only. Let's start with the session, and we will save the questions for the end, or maybe somebody can just type the answers in between.
Maybe our panelist team, Kunal and Ajay, can answer the questions on the Q&A panel, so that we can save a lot of time in answering them.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Bye. Okay. Now, Ajay has rightly, created the context about user, application, and data, and how the behavior of user A and B can change things, drastically. Because in today's world, what we do is we create policies, and the policies are generally based on departments, domains, or different clan of people who are working in a specific segment in an organization. And we trust them that these are the people, they need this kind of an access. Maybe they want to access VPN, they want to access a particular set of categories of websites, they want to access certain categories of content over the web, or they need an IS application. So we trust them, we trust them a lot. So we give accesses, we close our eyes, we do not know that what they're going to do, but we trust them that because they're lying in that particular domain or department, they are not going to do anything wrong. But that's where we fail. That's where the cybersecurity transformation is required. And that is where the SASE solutions are coming, not only with the capabilities of giving the user protection and data protection and application protection from wherever the user goes, but actually we are also trying to provide some sort of analytics and user behavior element so that the user A and user B activities could be same, but their conditions, the way they are handling the data, the way they are digitally performing on the machine can drastically change the overall scenario. And you have that capability of adapting the risk and change the policies dynamically. So from a SASE approach perspective, there are I would say three different elements. One is accessing your internet and your SaaS-based apps. We all know that we are heavily on, these days we are heavily adopting SaaS-based applications. Maybe it's Office 365, G Suite, OneDrive, Zoom, Confluence, Jira. There are a whole lot of applications which we are adopting day by day, and which is also making our lives easier in terms of running the business operations. There is no harm in that. But from a security standpoint, being a CISO, it becomes real challenge because it is easy for the business, it is easy for the revenue, but at the same time, it's very difficult and challenging to make sure that the user who is accessing it should be protected. The application to whom it is connected to should be protected, and the data transfer between those apps and the user should also be protected. And that would be a cherry on the cake when the user is roaming. So it becomes a real nightmare for anyone to control these kind of connections, control the entire transition from a user to the application and the entire data flow. So within that, what Forcepoint is bringing in, that Forcepoint has come up a SASE approach. We have got a cloud security gateway component. This cloud security gateway component is valid for our existing customers who are already using our web security solutions, who are either on-prem solutions or using our solution on hybrid, or who are using our cloud web security solution as a complete pure cloud solution. So it's a mixed bag for all of our customers and prospects. The benefit with Forcepoint is that Forcepoint is one of those very few vendors there who are providing a SASE in a hybrid approach, because we know that hybrid approach is not going to go over. It will be there because we still do not know that how this cloud bubble will go, whether it will burst or whether it will flourish. So hybrid infrastructures would flourish in the long run. So what Forcepoint is doing, Forcepoint is actually providing two types of solutions. One is cloud security gateway. This contains a web security as a service. So it could be on-prem web security. It could be a hybrid web security where something is on-prem and something is on cloud. And it's a pure cloud web security also. So web security as a service is the base of this cloud security gateway, which is being used by the users to make sure that they have a clean internet pipe. At the same time, this web security service will be combined with a technology called CASB solution. So going forward, your web security and CASB will not be two solutions. It will be a single solution. They both will collide within each other. It will be a single product offering an application security for sanctioned apps, for having granular controls like you are having an Office 365, Confluence, Jira. You have more granular controls, hundreds of controls you can do when users are trying to access those apps. And on unsanctioned apps, you can simply block them, allow them, or have few controls on unsanctioned apps. And then you have internet where you block security risk websites, legal liabilities, production loss websites. So these web security and CASB will go hand in hand on this CSG platform, making as an integrated product so that you have complete control on your web security stack and you have complete control on your cloud application stack. So your SaaS applications and your internet will be protected by this web security as a service and a CASB in an integrated fashion. The benefit with Forcepoint is because Forcepoint has been a leader in the market for data loss, and data loss being the core for any security solution, and SASE is no other solution than that. So DLP also has been put as a core within our SASE solution, and that is why we call it as data first SASE solution. So what DLPs does is that we have introduced a DPS service. I'll explain in an architecture in my next slide, but just to give you a view, DLP is being kept as an enterprise DLP element. So all the vendors, all the SASE vendors, they talk about DLP, but they do not focus on it because it's a basic DLP which is provided on cloud. It's a heavy service. Okay, enterprise DLP is a heavy service. So what we are doing, we are trying to incorporate your existing DLP policies, your enterprise DLP policies on cloud. So wherever the user goes, whether he is in office, hotel, airport, home, your enterprise DLP policies will be applied on your web security as a service. So your web gateway will always be protected for any data theft, any bot network transmitting your data in a known and unknown encrypted format to a bot destination, to a malicious destination. This DLP and web security will work in tandem and giving you all the results. It will protect you wherever the user is. Okay. The other piece, this DLP is not only integrated with web security, but also will integrate with CASB. So any data upload or download happening on your sanctioned apps will be controlled by your enterprise DLP. No keyword based, no simple policies. It will be like very complex, very hard coded enterprise DLP classifiers, which we have in our DLP solution, like 2000 plus classifiers you can use, which contain source codes, strategic business documents. You have merger and acquisitions, patent information, a lot many things you can configure within a DLP solution, along with fingerprinted and machine learning. All those things can be applied on your CASB platform, and anything which is getting downloaded and uploaded on your sanctioned apps can trigger a breach based on your policy creation through this DLP solution. So this DLP will integrate with web security. This DLP will integrate with your CASB. And along with that, you have advanced threat protection, that is your sandbox and RBI capability. So RBI, Ajay has already covered. It's a remote environment where you have, I call it, in a simple word, I call it as a live sandbox happening on a URL, where you access the URL, it opens on your browser, but actually it doesn't open in your browser. All the active codes, scripts injected within a page, all those garbage which comes within the page will be disappearing. Only a clean page will be displayed on your machine. Ultimately, that browser will be opening a page in a remote cloud environment, and your machine will be protected. So it's a wonderful technology, generally used for top executives, generally used for critical departments who needs to access security risk websites or some restricted websites, which we generally do not allow for the people. And that's where RBI plays an important role in the organization. It creates a lot of value when you enable it on your web security solution. Now, this complete suite can be integrated with your hybrid as well as your pure cloud or your on-prem capability. The other piece is your private access. So private access is your ZTNA capability, where you have zero trust network access, replacing your VPNs, where you have your applications hosted in your private data centers, your IaaS, your on your own data centers, and you want to give secure access to your people to those apps. Currently, you are using a VPN technology. I'm not denying the fact you will not go away with your VPNs. VPNs will not be going away. There are many use cases which VPN will do, but yes, at a greater extent, where you have to give access to an application hosted in your environment, you can simply replace the VPN with the private access technology. So this private access technology in Forcepoint will definitely be having an NGFW as a service, where you have complete intrusion prevention system. Along with that, you have a DLP control. So many organizations say, Akshay, we don't know how to protect data when people are accessing internal networks. They download data, they use that data, we don't know. So we are trying to provide a DLP, enterprise DLP capability when people access your internal apps also. And that's a wonderful capability, trust me. And this is all be done from a single DLP console. Along with that, you have AMD and RBI solution on top of it. Now, one thing which I would like to highlight here is that your HQ and branches will be connected with this solution, okay? But the important thing is that this agent, okay? So we all understand handling endpoints on machine is a big task. We always face challenges in rolling outs, in compliance coverage, all those things. So the beauty with Forcepoint is that all these solutions which you are running on the edge and on the endpoint, whatever control we can do on endpoint, everything will be done from a single agent. So this single agent will provide connectivity back to your edge devices or edge solution. At the same time, everything which will be done on the endpoint, like a DLP capability on an endpoint, will also be done by the same agent. So you need not to worry about multiple agents roll out, all those things. Everything will be done from a single agent wherever the user is. And that is why we track the user wherever he goes. So wherever is, I mean, whether he's in office, outside, or anywhere, the user will be tracked for his activities, whether he's on web security or doing something on locally on the machine. The other piece which Ajay also mentioned about risk quantification, analyzing user activities and all those things, that is one of those differentiators which none of the players are actually talking about in SASE, which is actually based on Kata, which definitely Ajay has also mentioned, is DUP. So Forcepoint has got a solution called Dynamic User Protection, which integrates well on an endpoint layer. This is a complete SaaS-based solution, and this DUP runs on the same endpoint which you will be running for your DLP and for your edge solution. So this DUP will be responsible for monitoring all the activities, normalizing all the data on the endpoint, and giving a risk adaptive approach to your DLP and other solutions to take dynamic policies, to apply dynamic policies. So that's a beauty where, you know, your user can be anywhere and your user is still tracked and still monitored for all the misbehavior activities or, you know, anything which could harm the organization on a longer run. So this is how the SASE approach can be taken. Existing customers, yes, they can leverage some of the components from it, and they can still go ahead and you know, leverage the entire component. So from an architecture piece, how does it work? Just to give you an idea, one more on a traffic flow. So the user will be having an agent will connect to a cloud proxy, which will be a single cloud in Forcepoint's case. If it is a normal internet access, the traffic will flow from web proxy to the internet. Along with that, if there is a sandbox requirement or there is an RBI requirement, the same policy will happen or applied on this web proxy component. This will be controlled by your CSG portal, which will be given to you. And all the policies, all the configurations will be done in the CSG portal. It is a complete SaaS-based portal, nothing on-prem, everything will be managed on the cloud. The other thing is that when user is trying to handle sanctioned apps, sanctioned app means like your Office 365, G Suite, etc. The traffic will be forwarded to your CASB engine, and your CASB engine will provide more granular activities like, you know, making your sharing restricted, creating, deleting, activating, modification on your cloud applications, data downloading, uploading on your cloud applications. Everything will be handled here, and user will not know. It will be a seamless experience for the user because he has a single agent. Everything will be happening in a single session, which is performing, which is creating to the Forcepoint cloud. Now, the other thing which comes in is the DPS. So this is a new addition to our components on cloud. This is a data protection service which we have launched along with our DLP. So many of you would be familiar with our DLP technology. So this DLP which we are providing in the market, we are extending that DLP capability on the cloud through this DPS. So all the policies which you have already created, all the time you have already invested, all that things, all that policies, all that logics can easily be uploaded to the Forcepoint cloud and applied on the proxy layer. So that's where your enterprise DLP policies will be applied on your cloud proxies as well as your CASB engines. So all these three components will be talking to each other, working in tandem to give you that value where you will see what activities are being performed, what you need to control on the access, and what kind of data has been exfiltrated by the users over the period of time. And now, not only this, but all the data related incidents, whether it is from your CASB engine, your web security engine, will be sent back to your DLP manager for your DLP admin to analyze what is the overall data portfolio, or, you know, what is the overall risk posture of your data hygiene in the organization on a single dashboard for your data protection. So that's how this architecture will run in from a cloud perspective. And same DLP managers will be integrated with your same agent on endpoint DLP, which will cover your peripherals, printing, your USBs, other things which can be, you know, performed from a data layer on an endpoint. And same DLP will be connecting with your Office 365 G Suite for your email DLP transaction. So I'll be covering a little bit more on a later period, because, you know, people are confused. If CASB is there, then why we need an email DLP? But both the things are different. Both things have different value, and email DLP is totally different, and CASBs are totally different to monitor emails. So definitely email DLP creates another value, and it can integrate with your existing DLP solutions with your Office 365 and G Suite. Now I'll quickly move on the standalone integration. So we all understand, and Ajay has also mentioned that it's a journey, it's a transition. You cannot do a big bang in one day and go say, okay, I'm going for a SASE and I'll get everything done in 1 month or so. It's a journey. You have to take step-by-step approach to get over there where you want to reach. So with Forcepoint, you get that flexibility where whether you are a web security customer, cloud or hybrid, anyone, any of those solutions you are using, you can top up those solutions with data protection service. So data protection service is your DLP on cloud. This component can be top on your existing web security solution. Then you can top it up with your AMD and RBI component, and then you can top it up with your CASB control. So it's a step-by-step approach. If you're already using a solution, you can pick any one of these and you can enrich and enhance your existing solution. You can pick 2 or you can pick all 3 in one go. That's your call. That's the journey where where you really want to go, and these are the flexible components which you can adopt from Forcepoint, and Forcepoint can help you in enhancing your existing environment if you're using our products. Now, I'll quickly jump on the dynamic user protection after covering the SASE approach and architecture piece. So from the insider risk heritage, Forcepoint, many of you would know about Forcepoint, WebSense. Earlier we were called as WebSense. We were there in data security and a lot of other stuffs. But user activity monitoring is something which has come to us from Raytheon, and user activity monitoring is being leveraged by a product called Forcepoint Insider Threat. And this is something which is a 20-year-old product used back in federal government and commercialized after the foundation of Forcepoint has been laid out in 2016. And after that, a lot of customers have adopted it commercially across the globe. And this solution was primarily derived for user activity monitoring, where we got deep visibility from the system, like all the metadata, all the activities users are doing. You get DVR captures, you get file information, file manipulations, encryption details, all those things you can collect from the system, what user is doing. The missing part is the contextual analyzation and analytics part on top of it. So we add on that capability with acquisition of Red Owl in late 2017, and we added a layer of analytics in our portfolio where we try to do contextual analysis of the data, where we can orchestrate different layers to provide meaningful intelligence to take actions automatically. That's where Red Owl comes in. But these all were primarily on-prem solutions or IaaS-based solutions, which were, which used to have a lot of heavy lifting had to do while installing these, solutions, because these are very high resource utilizing solutions, because we monitor the users for day in, day out. So we came up last September with a solution called DUP, which I just touched upon in my previous slides. So DUP is completely a SaaS-based solution, more easy and flexible to deploy. It's an endpoint and cloud-based solution where we have combined and we have married, you can say we have married the user activity monitoring and the behavior analytics in one platform. So every data which you were getting in user activity monitoring will be part of DUP now, and all the analytics which we're performing in FBA will be part of DUP now. So you have more meaningful analysis, more control points for orchestration, and it's a complete SaaS-based solutions, very easy to run through. Now, why do we need these things? That is really important. Ajay has already touched upon the IOC concept, IOC, the way IOCs work, the way we derive the results when a breach occurred. So you can read IBM, articles, you can read Verizon case studies, you can read a lot of things where you can see that once the incident happened, the cost of an incident is unbearable for an organization. One is the cost, the one is the reputation which gets hit when you have a breach occurred. But ultimately, when you look at that incident has already occurred. So you get the information based on the IOCs. Everything boils down to IOCs, where you try to find out system logs. You just analyze what has happened, but that will not help. That will actually go into the news that these are the things which happened, but actually you did not able to solve the problem. You were just investigating the things when they actually happened. So it was, like a postmortem kind of a thing which you are doing, but you could not save the problem. You could not save the breach, which could possibly have been saved if you have proactive measures. So IOCs are always a reactive approach, and we are in a reactive world right now, and we are trying to be proactive in cybersecurity to ensure that our cybersecurity solutions become resilient to the activities which users are doing. And how do we do it? So the answer for this is IOBs. So there are two components to understand this behavior: is mean time to detect and mean time to respond. So that mean time to detect and mean time to respond is leveraging the IOBs. So these IOBs are Forcepoint proprietary IOBs. We are creating these. We have data scientists in our X labs who are creating these IOBs. We have over 100 of indicators of behaviors which we have already created enriching our DUP solution. What these do? What does this actually do? It tracks the overall trend of a user and sees that what he actually has been doing over a period of time. So it will automatically giving you a proactive risk exposure to a user. And these IOBs will enrich that if a system has been modifying, system settings has been modified, or user has scheduled a task, or user has downloaded something, uploaded something, encrypted a file, taking a remote desktop. All those things, when they are being done in sequential order, the overall risk of an individual goes high. So those IOBs and those risk exposures will combine together to give a particular risk quantification in the DUP console. And based on that, the overall time to respond decreases, because you have that actionable intelligence proactively available with you. Now you can take those actionable intelligence and pass this on to a different solution to apply dynamic policies. So that's how the IOBs actually are different from IOCs. It's a completely proactive approach where you can, see things, or at least get alerts or get some insights that there is something which is going to go wrong in the organization from that user perspective. So from an IOBs, what exactly are IOBs? So you can see on the right hand side, these are some examples of IOBs, like applied to job, to link, anomalous download, or upload to personal upload. And there are some risk impact scores which are associated with these, right? Looking at these, in isolation, these are harmless activities, okay? This can be done by anyone. But if you see them, that if these are performed in order or in a sequence by a user, then it is a different ball game altogether. The user might be at risk. He is a risky user for the organization if these activities are performed together, because the overall risk which he'll be imposing on the organization will change drastically from a different user who's only doing one of those. Okay, so these risk impacts are there are 5 categories where we have defined the risks. 0 is informational, 5 is low, 10 is medium, 40 is high, and 80 is critical. So these are all categorized in these 5 risk categories, and different activities, different IOBs are part of these risk categories. On the left-hand side, you see that these IOBs are generally bucketized in 5 or maybe more buckets. Like, for example, lever, data stockpiling, data exfiltration, data access, system modifications, and etc. etc. So these IOBs are, as I already mentioned, there are 100 plus IOBs, but bucketized in different categories so that you have an understanding that what kind of a behavior you see from a user to understand what kind of risk is he posing on the organization. Now, from as I mentioned about mean time to detect and mean time to respond, how do we do it? From a DUP perspective, your traditional UAM capabilities are combining with UEBA. That is an analytics layer, and giving you a DUP platform where analytics and visibility happening on a single layer, on a single platform, and data normalization happens on the endpoint itself. So it makes it real quick, real easy for the organization to adapt. You would be surprised to see that this solution can actually create a baseline within 20 days. Normally, UEBA solutions takes 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, but we have a DUP autopilot system which creates baselining within 20 days and gives you results in 20 days going forward. So, and this entire thing is based on CATA, that is continuous adaptive risk and trust assessment. So these platforms are created on the same kata, and this is continuous risk adaptive approach which we take. The other thing is the response. We talked about the detection, how we detect things. Now, how do we respond? So Forcepoint is actually believing in orchestrating the intelligence or the analytics which we are doing on the data which we are capturing. So currently these controls are being given to DLP solution to make sure that DLP is applying risk-based policies. So lower the risk, lower your restrictions, higher the risk, higher restrictions, automatically, the policy will change. And our goal is that we push these controls to our CSG platforms also. That is our cloud platform, which we just discussed about web security, CASB, and other platforms. So this risk adaptive approach will be given back to our CSG platforms as well. And later in 2021 and later and in 2022, we will also try to incorporate these intelligence to third-party solutions for step-up authentications, exposing APIs to third-party solutions to capture information from us and apply dynamic policies. So that is the end goal for DUP, but currently we are trying to do it with our capability and having a risk adaptive, complete actual risk adaptive approach for the new SASE world. So now I think it's time for the break. This was the presentation which we had to give you understanding about the components which we are touching today on SASE, on the zero trust and the risk adaptive capability which Forcepoint, and actually it's a need of an hour going forward. So that is something which we are doing. So it's a quick 5-minute break, and then it will be followed by the quiz.
Great, Akshay. I'm going to share my screen and we'll put the counter on. Okay, can you stop sharing, please?
Sure, sir. Sure.
Okay, so share, and I'm starting the counter now. Exactly after 5 minutes, we'll start the Kahoot quiz. So you can go have your coffee, take a bio break, and be back in 4 minutes, 50 seconds. And Jagdish, you will manage the Kahoot, or Akshay, who is going to take care of that?
Yeah, I will be managing Kahoot.
You will manage. Cool, cool. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm also stepping away for 4 minutes. I'll be back. Thanks.
Sure. Sure.
Taral bhai, I have added you. I hope you can hear and see.
Yeah, Jay, thanks.
Okay,
I'm in.
sure.
Jagdish, I think we are supposed to provide a pin for, I think some people are asking for the pin.
Jagdish is not there.
I just pinged. Yeah, one.
Great. Hope you guys are back. And those who accepted the stand and attend challenge, congratulations for completing it. You may sit down now. I'm also going to sit down. With this, over to you, Jagdish, for the Kahoot quiz.
Yep. Thanks, Vikas. So I'll be sharing the screen, which will have the pin. So most of you would be already aware of Kahoot platform, and for those who are not aware, you just have to log into kahoot.it and enter this pin on a cell phone. And I request everyone to put in please your full name, because there will be lot many Basant, Apurva, or so it'll be very difficult for us to finalize on the winner. So full name would really help. Oh yeah, I see a lot of people already logging in. That's great. That's great. That shows you're quite familiar with the platform.
Right, Jagdish, and we have 190 people right now attending live. So guys, please put your full name. If you put your nickname, we will not be able to figure it out.
Yeah. Now 100 participants already in less than a minute. This is awesome.
So once we hit 125, let's get started.
Sure.
110, 13, 14. Okay, let's give it 30 more seconds.
Sure.
Congratulations, Apurv. Let's see. And good luck. Not congratulations, good luck. Good to be excited. Let's see. 117, 118. Okay, let's get started. Jagdish bhai, over to you.
Sure. 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 Okay, so here we go. Yeah. First question coming up. What is an IOB? Wow, 118 answers, quite impressive, and 77 right answers. Awesome. Let's see who's leading. Kiran Balseka. Awesome. Let's move to the next question. What is Forcepoint DPS?
Rajesh had asked this question as well, and somebody had responded if you're paying attention to the chat.
Great. Again, 82 right answers. CK Prasad knows up. Okay, that's the best part of this game. It changes with every question. Yeah, let's move to the next one.
Seems like we are having a KBC countdown kind of a thing.
Yeah, the fastest finger. Okay, was a tricky question indeed, probably.
I think the
Let's see the
score will be
results.
changed now. No? Very nice.
No,
It's
Prasad is still leading.
very nice.
Great. He's paid attention.
Sumit is
Yeah.
catching up. Very nice. Alok as well. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So moving to the next question and the last one probably. Wow, 95 right answers. Excellent. Final results.
This is the final one. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Anil Chopra, congratulations,
Yeah,
bye, from Delhi chapter. Prabhakar,
Prabhakar.
very nice. Number one is
Sumit, wow.
Sumit.
Table
Wow,
7.
again from Delhi. Very nice. That's great. Let me take a snapshot. Give me one moment. I'll post it in there.
Sure. And if you see that the difference is barely within 100.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice.
Very tight contest. Excellent.
Sumit bhai, beer now. Okay, it's piling up on you now. Okay, guys, please continue. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I'll stop this, stop sharing and quickly share a small video with all of you before we start the next session. And I hand over the rest to the Kunal. Just a second.
There is no volume coming.
Okay. Sorry. Just give me a second. Is it better now?
Still no voice. So when you share, you have to click on that share sound as well, right?
Yes, I have done that, and I'm surprised why. Maybe it's something I've muted on the YouTube. I'll quickly check.
If you have a headset, you can remove the headset for some time. Let it
No.
be playing on the laptop.
No, it was muted on the YouTube, so I will reshare it.
Okay, cool, yeah.
We don't do things the way we used to. We don't commute together. We don't go into the office together. But we will never stop working together, sharing ideas together, persevering together. And one day soon, we will emerge stronger together. Forcepoint, cybersecurity that brings us together, even as we work further apart.
Right. Now over to Kunal.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Satish. I'll just share my screen. Okay, guys. Thanks everyone for taking out time and joining this particular session. In the initial portion of the session, we saw Ajay and Akshay talk about the solution, what is it that we are doing, how SASE is panning out in the market, what place specifically Forcepoint has, right? This is just stage where we basically start to walk the talk. Okay, so whatever we talked about, we start showing it to you as to how it will basically work, right? So I have with me a live lab which I have configured, which I'll basically use for this particular session. Okay, and I'll take you through individual use cases. The use cases themselves have been defined into 3 categories here. Okay. The first one is around how cloud security can be enhanced and simplified. Okay. The second portion is around data protection. And the third one is getting into more details around data protection, unification, and also talking about human behavior monitoring, right? So the first 2 buckets I'll basically conduct, and the last one will have Akshay again helping us out here, right? So having said that, I'll quickly move on to the first use case. Now we talked about, and Akshay mentioned in the earlier content as well, right? That web security and CASB are not going to be separate solutions, right? So the use cases are combining now, right? And similarly, the solutions also have to basically be offered as a unified solution. And that's what we have done, right? If you look at the cloud security gateway or CSG, I think most of you answered the quiz as well earlier on. And I could see, and I was very happy that most of the questions were correct, right? Or the answers were correct, basically. And the first use case basically builds up from there. Okay, so you have web security in place, which is primarily used to define category-based protection, right? What is allowed, what is not allowed. You will be basically blocking risky categories of URLs, allowing the ones which are good for your organization or the ones which are allowed within your organization, right? But then how do you enhance it? Okay, how do you make sure that you are enhancing it, making it risk-based? Okay, whether my application can be blocked based on the risk which that application is posing to me. Okay, that's one. Second, can I add more in terms of if I want to secure the access further, right? So I think remote browser isolation, we talked about it a little bit, and somebody also asked a question on the chat as well, right? What is remote browser isolation? So we are enhancing the web security, we are enhancing the secure application access, and we are making sure that these technologies integrate with the existing ones, okay, and they offer you added protection. How does it do it? I'll show it to you when I show you the actual use case. Okay, now this also carries forward in terms of transparency, which Akshay was talking about, right? For the end user, they don't even need to know what is happening in the backend, right? Is it web security? Is it CASB? Is it RBI? The end user does not need to know that. The end user doesn't need to be trained on that, right? It is just a solution that should basically take care of it. And that's what we'll see here. So initially what I'll do is I have a lab here with me. Okay, I'll open that particular lab. I have taken a remote access of that particular lab. It's sitting in the Forcepoint cloud. Okay, and we have a setup here, a certain number of endpoints, DLP deployed, and various other components which are required to basically make this lab functional, right? I'll just take an access of one of the endpoints here. And the use case that we are trying to see here is we'll basically look at some of the URLs, some of the risky URLs, which are basically blocked based on categories, right? So if I'm basically a user right now, and if I'm trying to open, let's say 777.com, right? It's a risky URL, right? And you can see that it's basically matching a category of URLs which falls under gambling. Okay, so you have a corporate policy defined explicitly where you are saying that I want to block my risky categories. That's taken care of, right? But then if you look at an organization, you might also require people to, let's say, access YouTube. Okay, now YouTube is necessarily not risky. Okay, but then you don't want your employees to basically spend more time on it, right? So then my profile changes here a little bit, right? Instead of just doing category-based protection, now I want to add a condition to it. So I will allow YouTube, okay? But what should happen is there should be a quota assigned. So let's say if I'm working from 9 to 6 or whatever be the time frame, you can take entire 24 hours. The corporate can now define a policy saying that the user should be able to access YouTube for only 1 hour. Okay, so let's go ahead and just try doing that. And you can see that I am instantly basically either not allowed to access YouTube directly. Okay, I am prompted to use my quota time, which is 60 minutes for today. Okay, or I can go back, right? So this not only ensures that you are providing access, because at the end of the day, we are all human beings, right? We can't just be functioning like robots and doing our work day in, day out, right? We have to have some fun element to our job as well, right? So if you want to basically enable your profile demands that you want to allow YouTube, we can put in the quota. Now you would say that, okay, Kunal, everybody can do this. What is great in this? Let's take it one step further now. Let's look at the email. Okay, so let's say if I am providing access, YouTube is a content provider. Similarly, you have Gmail, who is going to be your personal email provider, right? If I open as a user, I open a URL, which is basically giving me access to my Google accounts. So I'll just say accounts.google.com. Yeah, you can see that I am basically allowed this particular access. Now let me try something else. Let's say yahoomail.com. You can see that I am being prompted for the user action, right? So now you are coaching the user. You are not right away blocking the access, but you are making sure that you are making the user more aware. Okay. This is where we say that, okay, Gmail is something which is allowed as per the corporate policy. But then if you are going to access any other email solution, right, you have to confirm that, okay, you are basically wanting to do that. Now, this does two things. Okay. This makes the user aware that, okay, there is some policy which is basically monitoring what is the email that I access, although it's allowing me for the flexibility of it. This basically also makes sure that the user is more aware, right, as to what is happening around them. Now, similarly, you can take an example of, let's say, dropbox.com, right? This is basically something which is allowed based on the corporate profile, right? And I'm able to access it. But let's say I want to access box.com here. You can see the access is basically blocked, right? So these are all web security access-based policies which are used to basically ensure that a clean, secure access is provided to your end users. Okay. Now I can further enhance this by making sure that I am allowing a certain category, but I am blocking it based on the risk. Okay. So I'll try to open certain URLs here, which are of a particular category. So this is a gaming category, play.empire.cred. Yeah. And you can see that this particular application has been blocked. Okay, let me try another one of the URLs. And you are seeing the difference here, right? You're not getting the category which is basically blocked here. You are just getting a block page saying that this particular application has been blocked. Now, this is done based on risk. Okay, let me try another URL. Okay, there's some connection issue here. Let me try one more. And I am allowed to access this particular URL, right? So you can see how the risk-based protection can be enforced. Now, usually you would have this kind of a profile in your organization wherein security is defined based on categories, based on basically quotas, and based on what kind of applications you want to allow to be accessed, right? There will be exceptions to it. We are adding a layer on top of it by adding risk. Okay. The other thing that we want to do is also monitor the files or the content which is being downloaded. So in this case, being a typical user and being a typical security policy which has been defined for this particular user, what we would do is we would basically block the download of a executable file. So I'll just take a URL here. Okay, this is a virus update definition file here. Okay, I'm just taking it and pasting it over here. And I say go. Okay, I'm going to this particular page. It's your endpoint security vendor, and I want to manually download the exe file, which is basically my corporate policy says that the exe file should be blocked, right? So let me try to download it, and you can see the access has been blocked now, right? So this is where you can see how we are adding layers on top of your basic URL and content filtering. And trust me, we have a lot of customers that we see out there who are basically just defining their access based on URL categories. And they are not putting in enough policies in place, primarily because you can have a situation wherein if there are exceptions granted in place, a lot of the times the IT teams get overwhelmed, right? And that is where the next technology, which I'm going to talk about, plays a very important role. So I think Akshay basically mentioned about what RBI is, okay? And I'll tell you what RBI is. RBI basically is remote browser isolation. It's a very simple concept, okay? What it basically does is any URL that you feel that you are not sure, okay, whether it is secured or not, okay, or you are not ready to accept the risks that come with accessing that particular URL, you can basically offload it to the isolation engine, okay? What the isolation engine will do is it will execute that particular URL in a virtual container, okay, remotely in the cloud, and the end user will just see the rendered version of that particular web page, okay? So I have a video here. I'll briefly take you to that particular video. In the initial portion of the in the initial portion of the video, I'll basically configure the web security to block a particular category. So there is a category here where we are going to take, let's say, for example, Twitter, and we are going to block it, right? Now, this is going to do two things, okay? Ideally, if it is only web security, the block would essentially make sure that the Twitter is not accessible, right? That's one part. But then we have enhanced it using RBI, okay? What we have done here is we have set in a policy saying that if I block Twitter, okay, the user should be allowed to access the Twitter web page, okay, but not from the web security portion. It should be offloaded to remote browser isolation. The site should be isolated, and then the access should be provided, right? So I'm allowing access to Twitter, but side by side, I am also securing my organization, okay? And what is the difference here? Let's say I deploy the policy, okay? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the endpoint. I'll go to the endpoint and configure the browser to basically use the proxy. Normally, this will be enforced by your pack file configurations or an agent which will be sitting on your endpoint. Okay, so I'll open ibm.com here. Okay. And if I open the details of this page, okay, you will see that I am basically able to see all the code which was there of that for that particular page when it got downloaded. Okay, let me just go ahead here to the part where, yeah, so this is where you can see the entire web code, okay, the entire HTML code here, and this is what poses a risk, right? Because this code can contain script. This code can call content on the endpoint to be loaded, okay? That content can be files, it can be videos, it can be PDFs, it can be anything for that matter, right? And that is what is basically going to pose a risk, okay? So this is the access of a normal URL, which is allowed within the organization, and you can see all the code which comes along with that particular URL. Now let me access Twitter, okay? You can see there was a brief blog page over there, right? You would have seen a brief snapshot where the site was actually blocked. At that point, the web security redirected it to the RBI, okay? Because the policy said that Twitter, it should be isolated and then the access should be provided, okay? So I am able to access Twitter now. But if you see the code here, okay, typically if you open the Twitter page on your browser, you will see the code is much greater than what I'm showing you right now, okay? This essentially is the code from the isolation engine, okay? The basic code which is required for it to render the web page on your endpoint, okay? Now, think of the possibilities that I can use this technology for. Okay, now I'm securing the web page. I'm providing transparent access to the end user. The end user doesn't even know. Okay, I'm showing you the code. That is the reason you are able to see that the page has been isolated, right? But normally you wouldn't even know that the page is isolated. I'll still be able to access the page, move around, scroll, click, view, watch videos, play music. I'll be able to do everything, right? But nothing will basically come to my endpoint. That is the beauty of this particular solution. I can see some of the Q&As being raised. I would request if somebody from the panelist team can answer those Q&As, right? Yeah. So this is where we make the web access more secured, okay, and make sure that you are able to provide access to your risky URLs as well, okay. Now, the one thing which I talked about is web security, how to enhance that web security, how to make it, which I'm going to talk about is more about the actions, okay. So you also want to have a situation wherein only the required corporate applications are allowed to be accessed, but the ones which are not corporate accounts should be blocked, right? So I'll give you a classic example here. Let's say I have Office 365, right? If my organization doesn't put in any control, I can log into my Forcepoint email, but then I can also log into my personal email account as well, okay? Now, typically, I would want that to be prevented, sure, for the reason that it has a potential of data loss, right? There can be data which can be basically be exfiltrated if I allow access to that particular email system, right? I'll do one thing here. Let's basically open one of the pages where I open Office 365, okay, and I try to log in using two accounts. One will be using a corporate ID, and the other one will be using without or a personal account, right? So I'm just turning on the policy. This is my console here. I'll just switch back and forth to just turn on the required policies here, right? So I turn on the policy where it says that non-corporate domain should be blocked, okay? I'm enabling the rule here, and I just need to hide my toolbar because I'm not able to.
I'll just check. I think you have logged out of your the console.
No, that's
Policy
fine.
didn't apply. Yeah, just check it.
Yeah, sure. So what I'm doing here is I'm just opening. Hang on, I need to hide the panel. Yeah, the floating meeting controls. Yeah, that's great. Okay. So what I'm doing here right now is I'm trying to access my Office 365 account. Okay, I'm just basically using a proxied URL here. Okay, and if you see, I'm already logged into a corporate account which is by the name of Eva. Okay, so forcepoint123.onmicrosoft.com is my corporate account, and I'm able to access it right now. Right? Let me just sign out of it. I'll just sign off from here. Okay. And let me try to log in using my personal account. Okay, so I'll switch my account here, and I'll basically use a personal account which is by the name of Sudeep Chongdar. Okay, and it is prompting me for a password. Sorry. I'll just look at the policy here, just a moment. Okay, the policy has not turned on yet. That's the reason I was able to log in, right? I'll just turn on the policy.
Just try to refresh it. It will work.
I think some connectivity issue here. Just give me a minute. It should pop up. Yeah, now the policy is on, right? Now the policy says that the non-corporate domain should be blocked. So I'll basically try to sign in again from a personal account here. Okay. And let me just sign in using Sudeep Chongdar, which is a personal account. Yeah.
It will take a 20-second time. I think you should sign out and.
Yeah, let me try in again this particular session here. Great. Okay. Okay, I think we'll come back to this particular use case later on. We are able to see that the solution is able to capture in the audit logs. Okay, we can see there is a login which has happened here, right? Login and logout. It's able to capture the actions here, but we can see that the policy is not basically being enforced. We'll just come to that at a later point in time, again at the end of the session, right? Let's move to the next use case here. So the idea here was what I was trying to show you is basically wherein a corporate account access is allowed, but the personal account access is blocked, right? That's one of the added security controls that you want to put in. The next part of activity monitoring is basically provisioning and maintaining and making sure that if there are personal machines being used, right, you are essentially controlling the access and making sure that security is there on top of it, right? So here what we are going to do is, if the URL is being basically be accessed from a personal machine, right? If the application is being accessed from a personal machine, then you will have a situation wherein the application will be in a read-only mode only, right? So think of it as basically offering you a powerful capability, right? Wherein if you want your applications to be made read-only, we can basically do that via a policy. So I have a policy here wherein it says that if you have unmanaged login, if you have a login from an unmanaged device, okay, make the application read only. Okay, so I'll just turn on this particular policy here. Okay, and let's try to access this application again. Let me sign off from my personal account first. Okay. Great. Yep. And I'll sign in using a different account, which is basically EVA, right? That's my corporate account. I'm just doing a sign in here. And I'll use my password, which is Forcepoint@123. So now I can move around. I can access my Office 65. I can go to my OneDrive. I can do everything, right? But let me try, apart from viewing documents, let me try to do some other action here. Okay, let me try to create a folder for that matter. So if I say create a folder, yeah. Guys, let me just clean up my cache. I'll just shut down because one of the policies seems to be getting enforced here. So I'll just log off everything here and close down my browser. Okay.
I'll just try it in the lab.
Yeah, sure. So let me try a machine in the lab. Let me take one of the other machines here.
Take the FSM one, FSM machine.
Okay. So I'm again opening my Forcepoint account, which is
Kunal, take
my
the FSM machine. It's a forward proxy mode, so it will go directly in the forward proxy mode. It's already logged in.
sorry guys, some issue today with the lab. Okay, let me try signing in from some other machine here. Okay, there's a browser warning. Let me just open OneDrive here and let me try to create a folder. Okay, let me try to create a folder now. I'll just give it a name, folder 65, and just say yes. Nope. So what is happening here is we are able to log in, everything is being logged. Okay, whatever actions that I'm performing, like create, you can see that all of these actions are basically being logged, right? View, logins, everything that I just did, everything is being basically logged. But when you look at the action, it should basically block that particular action from happening. That is something which we need to basically further work upon.
I'm only concerned that if there is any maintenance activity which
Yeah, exactly. So because we tested this before we joined the session and it seemed to be working fine. So if you see some of the actions here in the audit log, right, where you see that there is no anomaly detected, right? No. But then you see here some of them are yes, right? If you see the same action, create action, which I performed earlier in the morning, which was today, right? It basically blocked this particular action. I was able to enforce, and you can see the mitigating action is blocked, right? So all of these actions along with the DLP policy. So the same policy, the non-corporate domain policy that we are seeing here, you can see that it's something which is basically blocked earlier. So I'm not sure, we just need to troubleshoot why the policies are not being affected, or maybe there's some maintenance going on in the backend.
I think you disabled all the policies. Now when you're enabling it, it is not enforcing on the gateway. So that could be due to the maintenance activity, that your policies which are enabling are not reflecting on the gateway.
Sure, Akshay, I get it. So let's move ahead any which ways. We'll still go through the use cases that we have. I just want to show you what is it that we were trying to do here. I'll take you through this use cases and the relevant policy along with that as well, right? So let's go ahead with our session here. So the third use case which we basically saw was around allowing access and making sure that you are basically putting some controls on personal machines, right? So whatever application which I was trying to access, it would have put that application in a basically read-only mode, right? I would have been only be able to view it. The next use case was something similar around wherein, again, if there is a critical activity that the user is trying to perform, like let's say, for example, I'll just give you an example again. I'll open this application here. Let's try it one more time. Okay, let me enable the policy. I'll show you the policy as well. Wherein here, what we are doing is whatever access or if there is some critical activity that some user is trying to perform, right? It should basically prompt for multi-factor authentication here. Okay, so the policy basically says that if somebody tries to activate, create, delete, view, okay, and it is basically being done on the admin center, okay, there's an admin critical activity which is being performed, it should basically verify the identity. You can see the policy action here, right? Verify identity. Now, what this will basically do, it will prompt the end user for multi-factor authentication, okay? Wherein if these activities are performed, which are defined in the condition, the end user will have to enter the OTP, okay? Or a multi-factor token, which would be sent on their phone or either on their particular email. So let's activate this policy. Let's try it once more. I'll open the page and try to log in the same application. Using Eva. Eva is again the corporate user, right? Okay, and what I'll do is now I'll go to the admin center. I'll open the admin center here. Okay. Yeah, so you can see here again, I am not sure. I think the basic problem here we are facing is the policy is not being enforced. Okay, what you are seeing here is all the traffic is going over a skyfencenet.com, right? This basically says that the solution where we have created the policy is sitting in between, okay, but it's not able to enforce the policy as of now, right? But ideally, if you open this particular page, it should prompt you for a multi-factor authentication, right? It would ask you for an OTP wherein you are required to enter that OTP, and only then you would be able to access the admin center, right? So from a use case perspective, you can think of it as you are adding layer of security, right? Earlier, we talked about web security, how it can be further enhanced using RBI. Then we looked at how, if there are some particular activities being performed, how they can be restricted, right? People trying to open non-domain email applications. Similarly, if there are some critical activities which are being performed, then we can prompt the end user for multi-factor authentication. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to cover in the initial section, more around access control and securing the applications. The next part of the session that we are going to look is around data protection. Okay, this is where we'll see how data can be protected. Okay, and this is where we'll basically see how the DLP policies can basically be enforced, right? So here, what we are going to do is, in the first use case, we are going to see how, if there is an exfiltration attempt which is being done by the end user, there will be a DLP check in between, and the file will not basically be allowed to be uploaded, right? So let me see. Yeah, so let's do one thing now. Instead of this, let's go to the lab. I'll take one of the endpoints here. Okay, and I have a test page. Okay, this is a test page wherein if you try to upload a critical file, it should basically block that particular file from being uploaded, right? So let's take one of the files here. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, DPS sample, sorry. So I take this particular file and I try to upload it now. And you can see here that I am being prevented from uploading the data, right? You can see that the request has been blocked to prevent the loss of data theft, potentially sensitive data. And this is basically enforced by the data protection service. Okay. So this is where you ensure that, okay, any critical data leaving the organization, if there is an upload which is happening, I want to basically block that from happening, I can do that. And this is being enforced by the DPS. More important to highlight here, I think you would have seen what DPS is, right? It's a data protection service in the cloud. Okay. And that is what is enforcing this particular action here. Okay. If it would have been a DLP, you would have seen a different kind of a behavior. The upload would have been blocked, and there would have been basically a pop-up or something like that on the endpoint wherein it would have told you that, okay, the DLP has enforced it. Don't get me wrong here, it's still the DLP, it's the same DLP policy, but how it is being enforced is basically changing, right? This is now being enforced by the cloud service, and that's the reason you are seeing this particular block page here. Yeah. So the idea over here, and with this particular use case, what we want to highlight here is we want to highlight a capability wherein if you have an on-prem DLP, if you are using an on-prem DLP, right, how seamlessly it can basically be extended to the cloud web security or to the CASB, right? Email security, all the Forcepoint solutions that we have out there, how they integrate and work together. That is what the use case here basically is trying to tell you. Yeah. I think the next two use cases are also around CASB itself. Maybe we will not be able to again enforce the actions here, right? But the idea is to basically block when you are using personal applications like your personal drive, right? You should not be able to upload critical data, right? And similarly, if you are doing it on your personal machines, so the application is something which is allowed, but the endpoint is something which is unmanaged, right? It's your personal machine. Then this will basically block that action from being enforced, right? You will not be able to download that data. Now, again, these two use cases tie back to what we were trying to enforce as a policy. Unfortunately, we are not able to do that here, right? So before I end my session, I think just want to do a short recap. We looked at web security, how web security can be enhanced. We looked at activity monitoring, how it can be regulated, how it can be monitored, how certain actions can be enforced. And we also saw from a data perspective, how data uploads, critical data uploads can be blocked, right? I'm a little bit sorry here in terms of we were not able to demonstrate the entire use case, but having said that, from a data protection perspective, I'll hand it over to Akshay. We have a short quiz in between, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yes, Kunal, we do have one. So before
Yeah,
that, we would do break. So I will ask Mr. Vikas to announce same.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good, guys. So let me share my screen. I will again put a 5-minute timer. And after 5 minutes, we will start the Kahoot quiz. We are a little ahead of schedule, but let's go. Jagdish, can you give me permission to share my screen? Or I think you'll have to stop sharing first.
Yeah.
So let me try now. Yeah. Okay, guys, I'm starting the timer now. Go take a bio break, coffee break, come back in 5 minutes. And Jasjeet, we will put the pin once we start the quiz. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, guys, time over. Jagdish, let's start with the second round of Kahoot quiz.
Sure, Sean. Before I share the key or the screen, I would request all of you to please enter your full name, no nicknames and no numbers.
And I'm also going to post the URL of the LinkedIn post, which team is going to put in like 10 minutes or 5 minutes. We would appreciate your comments and your suggestions on the LinkedIn post in terms of how you like the overall workshop, what all did you learn. Just take out a couple of minutes and post your experience over there as well, folks. Thank you. Okay, here goes the pin. So Jagdish, let's say if somebody won in the first one, the first Kahoot quiz that we did, can they win again? Is that possible? Is that allowed? Anil says yes.
Very good.
So
Very
it
good
is allowed. It is allowed. I mean, it has got nothing to do with the previous one, right?
Yeah.
It's a
In a way,
different
yeah.
quiz.
It is allowed, and the winner can be magnanimous to share or swap his gift with us. You don't
That's
mind?
right. That's right.
I had a similar question on the Wheel of Fortune. I said, what if the winners also win Wheel of Fortune? So I said,
Yeah,
the
that's
watch
true.
looks very, very tempting. Ek haath de, ek haath le.
That's true. That's true. That's how it should be. You know what? People say that, okay, so we did some big giveaways as well, like Apple AirPods and Bose headsets. So people say if somebody has won in the previous session, they should not qualify for the next one. And then what I say that, okay, again, they are attending the session, they are spending their time, so they are eligible. That's how it is. Okay, 111 people right now. Let's see if we can touch 120 or it is stuck at 111 to 112, 114. Okay, guys, 6 more and then let's get started.
Sure.
Okay, 115. Let's get started. Let's not wait on this anymore.
Sure. Yeah, here we go. Module is okay. 60 right answers. And here's the final result.
Hey, Rajan from Delhi. Abhishek from Mumbai.
Second.
First one is.
Before I hand over again to Akshay, I'd like to run the video quickly so that I give him enough time to prepare.
We don't do things the way we used to. We don't commute together. We don't go into the office together. But we will never stop working together, sharing ideas together, persevering together. And one day soon, we will emerge stronger together. Forcepoint, cybersecurity that brings us together, even as we work further apart.
Over to you, Akshay.
Yeah, thank you so much. So,
Before Akshay comes in, Akshay, 10 seconds. Thanks to all the, congrats to all the winners. Great job, great participation. Overwhelming to see the participation. It's very, very nice. So many things rolled into one. One is technology is, of course, happening. We're also doing fitness. We are standing, and I'm still standing. So fitness is also being taken care of. And we thought, why not do Murphy's Law also? Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So we approved that also with some amount of lab hesitancy and lab not taking off. I hope we can set it right and take it forward from here. Thanks for your patience.
yeah, thank you, Ajay. So whatever Kunal has covered, okay, Kunal has covered about the cloud portion of it, that how if you want to access control on the cloud layer, and if you want to have a data protection on a cloud layer, then the Forcepoint can actually help you in order to integrate all your DLP capabilities along with the access control capabilities to make sure your edge, that is your user, your edge and data flowing from your apps to your edge should be protected. Okay, to and fro from your edge should to and fro from your user should be protected. So that part we have covered from the SASE perspective. Now, the other important layer, which generally we forget, or generally it has not been considered when we talk about SASE, otherwise it is a very important topic, is that how we are actually managing the data protection on the user level itself. If we have enough controls on the user level, then there are a lot of things which we can mitigate in terms of exposing the risk of that user further on the edge devices or on the apps, etc., etc. I know that from a business perspective, these things, the data flow must be there, but there are a lot of things which we can control, and we can control on the system level itself. So what I'll be covering in this session is, I'll not be taking a lot of time. I'll be covering some important use cases on the endpoint DLP, email DLP, how it is a little different from a CASP DLP or a SASE DLP perspective. And then we'll talk about the risk adaptive approach, how risk adaptive approach actually works in tandem with the DLP technology to give you that risk enhancement. So before I jump onto the use case, the first and foremost thing which you need to understand is that Forcepoint DLP is one of those vendors, or Forcepoint DLP is one of those products which actually provides a single level of policy on all your channels. So you talk about network channel, you talk about endpoint, you talk about cloud channel. So what we try to showcase to you today, all the channels are combined in a single policy. It becomes real easy for your DLP admins or for your IT teams to manage the data protection in the organization, because it will not need you to duplicate your efforts. It will not need you to create more policies. Same policies which you've already created, deploy them on-prem, deploy them on cloud, deploy them on your network channels, all in one go. So that is one of the important things which I would like to mention. And from a high level summary perspective, data protection, what we call data protection is not just blocking a keyword, blocking some sort of regex, but it's a complex capability of combining fingerprinting, regex scripts, and performing those things in tandem on different channels. Like you are going to do some print, you are trying to upload, you're trying to copy to a network share, you're trying to copy it through Bluetooth. A lot of things can happen on a peripheral device, on a peripheral level. That needs to be controlled, and it is a part of SASE because user is traveling. So user will contain a lot of data on his laptop. So keeping the data controlled on your laptop is something really, really important. And in order to give you an idea that length and breadth we have already covered, but yes, just to give you an idea, that's It contains DRIP DLP, cloud native capability, encryption we have on the endpoint level, comprehensive data discovery capability for data at rest, OCR, fingerprinting, and email-based incident workflow. Some of those use cases will be showcasing you today. Unification, as I mentioned on my previous slide, unification, having a converged single console for managing your DLP policies across the platforms is something which is very, very unique and with so much of ease. And your behavioral analysis. So analytics, like I talk about DUP integration, risk adaptive controls is something which we have already inbuilt with our DLP new versions. And then taking those risks and adapting towards the automatic policy application is something which we are already doing within our DLP, and we can also integrate with different classification vendors, and some of them integrates with us natively. So that's how the high-level summary from a Forcepoint data protection suite per se, let it be on-prem cloud or anywhere else you want to deploy a data protection capability. Now, I just want to take you towards one of the important use cases. The biggest problem for any enterprise today is how to ensure and how to isolate a normal user, a normal breach from a malicious breach. Okay, that is one of the use cases which comes day in, day out. How do we ensure that we are not focusing on an accidental breach? We can focus on that, but that is not something which is going to harm you for a longer period of time. But a malicious insider can actually help creating a lot of damage to the organization. So in this use case, what we're trying to demonstrate is one of the features within the solution which can help you in order to identify and isolate those users. DRIP DLP gives you that capability where it can accumulate the incidents over a period of time. Okay, over a period of time means that if Akshay is breaching something today, Akshay is breaching something tomorrow, Akshay is breaching something day after tomorrow, DLP will keep a watch on Akshay and accumulating his incidents, and incident by incident, the risk will increase and automatic actions can be performed on Akshay only on data perspective. I'm not talking about other parameters, only the data loss trend which DLP will accumulate over the period of time. So in this, any channel, if Akshay is printing, Akshay is copying on LAN, uploading, or maybe he's trying to create something, or he's trying to email something, all those activities, all those channels will be covered within this DRIP DLP functionality. So I'll just jump on the lab. Okay, so we have created this lab for you. You can see that all the components are there. It's a huge effort which our team has done in order to create this lab. So this is our Forcepoint DLP manager, which I'll be showcasing you. And this is our endpoint machine. And this is the same machine on which Kunal was actually doing your web security use cases. So you can see some of the block pages are still here. So one of the USPs here is that everything happens from a single endpoint. You need not to install multiple endpoints. So I'll be showcasing that capability to you. Now, this is our endpoint machine on which we'll be working. On this machine, I have data, okay, that is called a source code. It's a Python script, okay. So I can open it for you. It's a Python script. Just a minute. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's a Python script. So what we are trying to do here is we are trying to do 3 different activities from this Python script. We are just trying to first copy this in a LAN channel. Okay, I've just open a shared LAN channel where user can simply open a network.
I think your slide is visible, not the console. If you're showing a console.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Just sharing my screen itself.
Now it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about it. So I think I opened this Python script which I'm testing it right now. Okay. Now this is our network share path which user has opened from his local machine, and this is the endpoint on which we are testing. Let me open this endpoint. So this is the one endpoint on which we are testing the proxy as well as CASB as well as DLP, everything running from a single endpoint. Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm copying this data here. Okay, it is copied, no issues. It could be a single time activity which user will do. Now user will, what user is trying to do is user is also trying to copy this, okay, on a USB channel. Okay. The moment I transfer it to a different channel, DLP will understand, okay, it's the second time this type of data in a stipulated time period, user is trying to exfiltrate. We'll ask for the confirm option and take a user consent, whether he wants to actually do that or not. So it's a coaching and awareness capability which can be given back to the user, and there's a timer on top of it. So you just do and you allow this. Okay. Now user is able to copy the data into his USB. It's fine. Now user will again go back to this data and try another activity. Maybe you can say, because of a demo purpose, I've just kept it for a few minutes, but you can keep it for multiple days. So I just do and print this, okay, data. And the moment I try to print it, the same data is get blocked. Okay. Now what has happened? The data was accessible to the user, but what exactly happened? Now here the trend user saw was that, okay, they can give me a notification, they can still monitor me, but they cannot catch me. They cannot catch me because I'm exfiltrating data, because there are thousands of users in the organization which are breaching the data. How will they catch me? Now here's the catch. What we can do is, here's your DLP console, and in this console, I'm just refreshing it for the incidents to come. Okay. Now you can see over the period of time, you have a cumulative rule applying on this particular user. Okay, user is being monitored by the DLP system, and it says that you have 3 incidents found. And once you click on these 3 incidents and more details, it will give you the total incidents were 3 from the user. Total matches were 3. Highest severity was high because the last incident which was raised was high, and first incident time and the last incident time, and overall time period was 1 minute 18 seconds. For a demo purpose, we have kept it for a few minutes. You can keep it for days, for hours as well, if you want to monitor certain users in the organization, and they can be, for critical data, they can accumulate in the DLP policy, and DLP policy can give you results. So you can see here in the DLP logging, on endpoint LAN, when we copied this data to some destination, it is permitted. When we copied it to removable media, it was continued confirm because user was prompted. And on the last transaction, the severity became high and the action was blocked. So automatically DLP is judging that user might be doing something suspicious. It's not a normal activity which he does in a stipulated time of period of time, and he blocked him already. All right. So this is one of the use cases which is very critical in order to show you that how DLP can actually accumulate the incidents from the users and give you the results. Now, the other piece is roaming user data protection. It's from a SASE perspective, it's really important for an organization to monitor the users on edge devices on the user level itself. So as I mentioned, so, and not only normal data protection, but the data protection which organization has applied. Like for example, we do a lot of fingerprinting of our data. The application contains a lot of data which is fingerprinted in the DLP systems. Same level of fingerprinted data you want to protect when the user is offline. Offline means the user is not connected to home network. The user is not connected to internet, but is trying to exfiltrate some data in his USB, external drive, SD card, Bluetooth. There where the difference comes in. Normal keywords, normal regex, fine. But what about the critical fingerprinted data which you want to protect, which you have fed into the DLP, that this is my data, you need to protect it. How DLP can protect it when the user is offline in his own comfort and at his home and trying to take advantage of the offline condition. So in that case, the capabilities which we are trying to give you is that USB have a capability of USB transfers have a capability of doing a native encryption in DLP. So you need not to spend any other money on the encryption when the sensitive data is being copied. So for that, for showcasing you that, I'm just taking you to the lab once again. So this is our GNS and this is our machine. So we'll simply go ahead and disconnect our endpoint. So I'm just deleting the connection. So now this endpoint is not connected now. Okay, I'll just take the console of this endpoint. And you can see that network connection is gone, no connections. And endpoint will also come as a disconnected state in a while. Okay, now it has come disconnected. Okay, now I'll just go down, and my machine is not connected at this moment. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to copy. Just a minute. Just opening my use case. Right. And this is my fingerprinting file, which I want to transfer to my USB. I'm just trying to transfer to my USB at this moment. And you can see that pop-up says that your file will be encrypted. So even if you are outside and you are trying to exfiltrate data, not connected to your systems, not connected to any internet, the system will protect you from exfiltrating data from your machine until the time, because we are not connected at this moment. So our, machine will not be sending back the logs, but what we'll do is we'll just reconnect the machine at this point in time. Just give me a second. Okay, now here is our GNS. I'm just connecting it again. Yeah, it's again connected, and I'm expecting that in few seconds of time I'll get the incident back. So now endpoint is connected. It has come in the connected state again. And now we're going to show we'll get the incident, the DLP dashboard. You can see here, now the DLP dashboard has given that it is a precise ID fingerprinting, which we have done for a database. And that data was tried to be exfiltrated on a USB while machine was offline on its home, and data was encrypted. And you can see the action here. The data is encrypted with the password. Okay, so this is one thing. Now the other thing which is really important for us to know is the email part. Okay, I'm just taking you to a different use case at this moment. Now the other thing which comes into the mind is email, because email plays a really important role in data exfiltration. It's an easiest way to exfiltrate data. You can block Gmail, you can block Rediff mail, you can block XYZ websites, but generally you will not be able to block a person to send an email to Gmail on his personal Gmail, or on his personal Yahoo mail, etc. So email being a very easy way to exfiltrate data, and hence it becomes a very important channel for monitoring the data. Now, what Forcepoint can do is Forcepoint can actually help you in giving you an additional layer of security with a dedicated email MTA. Okay, what dedicated email MTA can do is it can actually scan the entire SMTP header of your email to CC, BCC, message body, metadata. All those things can be derived from your emails. Whether you're using Office 365, you're using Google, you're using Zimbra, you're using on-premise Outlook, it doesn't matter. Wherever your email is, we can integrate with that. And we can give you that capability where all the emails going outside your office, outside your domain will be checked. And not only that, but the OCR capability. OCR means optical character recognition. What it does that if you are attaching a snapshot something in your email, okay, then the DLP can scan that snapshot, take out the relevant information from that snapshot, and then it can apply data, data type policy on that, not just an image like an IMG or a PNG. It will check the data content within that image, and based on that, DLP policy will be based. It's a wonderful solution. It can actually give you capability of identifying when emails are going to self-mails, emails are going to competitors, and not only that, email workflows. Like if I am sending an email, my manager can take a decision whether that email can be sent out or not. So I'm just going to showcase you that capability and how it is little different from the CASB controlling the email, because it's a fine line between a complete MTA and the CASB DLP, which we have on for emails. Okay, so I'm just logging in with one of the users, that is Barbara. So we have created one webmail for you. So the best thing with email DLP is that whether you're using an email client, you're using a browser, mobile phone, any client, if you're using for your corporate emails, all your emails will be scanned. Okay. So I'm just trying to send an email to myself. Trying to attach one document. So it's an image. You can see it's a JPEG image, which I'm trying to attach here. I'm just trying to write something here. All right. This is the email which I'm going to send it across. Now my email is gone. Right. My email has gone. Now we'll check what happened to that email. Okay. We'll come to the DLP console. And we see that there is an email which is captured from Barbara Jones, and the email is quarantined. The biggest difference between any CASB, any endpoint or data protection suite is that they cannot hold your emails for further analysis. MTA has that capability where it can quarantine your emails for further analysis and help you to automate things in the organization with respect to email workflow. The email will contain everything, and you can see the violation. It's not a PNG image. It's based on the different content available within that image, and the data is being blocked on the data type, and the forensic, the email body and complete email forensic will be given to you, that what exactly breached the policy. And along with that, the user information will be coming to you. So now the user manager is William Davis. Okay. Now user manager, what it does is, now user manager will get a notification that your reportee has somehow breached a policy. Okay. So you can see that user manager will has got an email, and this notification will get everything. What user has done, when the incident happened, entire email copy will also be given. Now user manager says that, okay, it is fine to me. I don't have any issues with that. I'll just, take an action on it, and I say approved. And I'll send this. Okay. Now, there is no intervention in between of an IT team or a DLP admin to do things, right? Everything was done by the user and his manager, because you have given the responsibility back to the business to take the decisions for them, whether the data is critical or not. Okay. Now, what we see is that after checking the mail, when the mail was responded as an approved, the mail got automatically released. Okay. From the quarantine stage, the mail has automatically been released, and the mail will be released to the recipient. So in the history as well, you get to know that, okay, it was detected and recorded and released quarantine message. So William has released the message because of certain reasons, because he approves it. So that in that way, you actually give responsibility back to the your business functions to take a decision what to do with this kind of an email activity when the user is trying to exfiltrate data through emails. So that is one of the use case which I wanted to cover from an email perspective, and definitely CASB solutions or any other solutions cannot monitor email clients for your email activity. They cannot quarantine emails. Email workflows like this, which I mentioned, cannot be done by those. So email, that is why enterprises use dedicated email DLP solutions to ensure that they have complete coverage on metadata scanning, and email forensics will be covered within the DLP solution automatically. Okay. Now I'll take you to, sorry, this band is coming, so issues. Okay, now the other piece which is really important is the discovery piece. So we understand that because of multiple regulations, we have a discovery, we have a requirement for discovery where we need to identify where my data is lying, whether it is cloud drives, whether it is on my network shares, my FTP servers. All those are places where tons of data is lying, and we do not know what kind of data is there and what kind of risk exposure that data is actually providing. So Forcepoint, what it does is it can do a network discovery on your on-premise databases, file shares, FTPs, etc. And it can also do a discovery on your cloud drives like your OneDrive, your Google Drives, and all those drives which contains data. So that in that way, we cover both the sections, on-premise as well as cloud, for discovering the data, where you can have not only visibility, but you can remediate. Remediate means if you discover some type of data, then you can take an action, whether you want to copy that data, delete that data, or whatever you want to do with that data, you can do that with the help of remediation capability, which we have in our DLP solution. So I'll just move you to the lab once again, and I'll just take you here. So there are two folders. One is your quarantine folder. So what we will be doing, we'll try to find some data, some PII information, Spanish PII information, which is a part of GDPR template, which we already have in our DLP, and try to copy that data to a quarantine location. Okay, we are not moving, we can move the data, but here we are only showcasing you copying that data to a safer location for future use. And this is the place from where the data will be scanned. So this is a folder on a network drive where I have multiple data types residing here. So we'll just try to go on the DLP console and run the task for this one. I'll go to the discovery policies, network discovery tasks, and I run the task here. PII, starting it here. Okay, just refreshing it. It's running. Now it's completed. So once it's completed, let's see what is the scenario of our quarantine folder. Okay, so this particular folder was scanned, and we'll go to the quarantine folder, whether we have got something in that or not. Yeah, you can see that the entire location and the path of that particular file has been moved to here, and you can see the copy of that file is moved to this quarantine folder. So DLP has discovered the data, and then if we'll go to the incident management, you can see the incidents also for discovery, and you can see we got a discovery incident just now. Okay, and it'll show you that where it was coming from and all the location forensics, date created, everything about that data. And there are a lot of filtering which you can do, specific file type, specific data type, duration of that file created, modification of that file created. You can do all those filterings to create policies. But just to demonstrate that we can give you a single discovery and data protection from a single pane of glass for your cloud, on-prem, and all those locations, that is completely doable with Forcepoint data first SASE solution. Okay, now I think we've covered from a DLP standpoint here. I'll come to my last, I would say, use case for this evening. This use case covers the dynamic user protection, okay, that applying of dynamic policies. And this is the need of an hour. We understand we all want to go in that era where, security solutions become so good that they understand things automatically, and they can prevent the breaches which are going to go in future. They should be so smart, but that we all know that's a journey. We all are participating in that. We all are contributing in that journey. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to go away from the static policy management. We are trying to go in risk profiling of the user and trying to apply dynamic policy in real time, so that your risk exposure for with static policies will become low, will come down over the period of time once you adopt the solution, and you have more proactive solution in place rather than a reactive solution. So now I'll just play a video where a user Sam, okay, so there is a user Sam who actually will be doing. So we have two types of policies here. One is your personal cloud upload that will be having a cloud storage blocking, and the other one is EV Corp confidential. So this EV Corp confidential contains the file fingerprinting policy for the user. Sorry about that. I think my just a second. Yeah, sorry. Right. So now there are two policies, and there's a user called Sam. Okay. Sam works for the organization, and today what he's trying to do is he's trying to copy some data on his machine. Okay. And the amount of data which he's trying to copy on his machine from a network share, he has never done it before. Okay. He has never done it before in his life. He tried to copy some data here and there. That is his normal work. But the kind of data stockpiling which he has been doing today, he has never done it before. So automatically the system will detect, okay, now the amount of data which Sam has pulled on his machine is not generally a normal use case. It's an anomaly which is being taking place. Okay. So automatically his risk score for that day has changed from 0 to 40. Automatically system detects it. Still things are normal. He is still doing a lot of work, and he's just trying to rename all these files which he has stockpiled on the machine. Now, what he's doing is he's trying to just copy this data, and he's also part of a Zoom meeting. So he's just trying to copy the Zoom meeting, and our DUP solution will actually find out that, okay, he's taking a screenshot, and he's also trying to save something from a Zoom meeting, which will also be recorded as a informational incident in the DUP to analyze it further. Okay. Now, after that, he's trying to upload some data which he has captured from the Zoom meeting on the Dropbox. Now, because the risk score is 40, automatic action will be imposed on the user to say, okay, whether you are, you're providing your consent to upload it or not. So he provided his consent, and the automatic risk score changed to 46. Okay. He was 0. Now he is on 46 because he has done certain activities which he never did in life before. Okay, it's an anomaly for the system because he has been never he's not been doing these activities. Now on day 2, because there are a lot of things happening in his mind, he's doing things on his machine. So on day 2, he has been profiling his resume, he's checking it, and he's just sending an email for a referral to one of his friends. So sending an email to the friend, according to DUP, is an informational incident. Okay, it's not something which will increase the overall risk substantially, because it's one kind of a user behavior or an IOB, which is an informational IOB. So that is why after sending an email, his risk score has not changed. It's still 46. Okay. Now, after checking that, after doing the email thing, he has come to a website called Indeed.com, or maybe he can go to a LinkedIn, he can go to Monster, or whatever job sites he wants to go. And he's just trying to apply a job. So we are monitoring not only the email transactions, the file downloading or manipulation of files, we are actually monitoring all the web access also, which he's trying to do. So the moment he uploads the data and profile on the web portal, his risk score changed to 49. He doesn't know about all this. So on day 3, what he does is he has been to his home, and he's just trying to copy some of the data which he stockpiled earlier on a USB drive, because he wants to take a backup. Now, because DLP and DUP works in tandem, because of the risk score, the data is encrypted now. He cannot access this data automatically on any machine. It can only be accessed on the same profile machine, same company machines. He can access data. He cannot access that data on any machine going forward because of the risk score. Okay. Now, the moment he does that, his risk score has turned to 70. Now day 4 comes in. On day 4, he's trying to copy some more data to USB. And now the data which he's trying to do has been blocked because the DUP says that you are doing this activity again and again. And because of that, your risk score has now become to 89. Now you remember on the day 1, he tried to upload certain things on Dropbox. He was able to do that with confirm option. But because his risk score has reached to 90, today he is not able to upload anything on Dropbox. So automatically, all the data transactions which he has been doing, for which he was allowed to do in the past, because of certain activities he has been doing on his machine, his risk score elevated from 0 to 90, and DLP automatically started blocking him again and again. First, it gave the confirm option, then it gave the encryption option, then it gave the block option, and then file upload was also blocked. So over the period of time, if user behavior change, anomaly detection is there, then risk score can actually apply automatic policies on the user systems. Now, from a lab perspective, I think we are done. I just want to take you through on the DUP console, because that is a fantastic console. I'll just take 5 to 10 minutes more within this workshop. And I just want your attention towards this particular section, because it will give you an insight that how the DUP IOBs are actually contributing to the risk scores. Okay. I'm just trying to log in onto the DUP console. Again, I'm telling that this is a complete SaaS-based solution, and it helps you to monitor risk, quantify risk, and then applying dynamic policies on the DLP currently and going forward on CSG platforms also. Yeah, so this is the DUP dashboard. Okay, it looks promising. It's a wonderful dashboard. I think it's a new version which we have released. So you have got a user overview and a timeline for your organization. It's a 30-day timeline. You can change it to 7 days, 24 hours. It totally depends how you want to look at it. So here's an option where you can change it. It's a 7-day timeline. It's a 24-hour timeline. So we'll keep it 30 days. And in 30 days, you can see that you have a critical, high, medium. Each day risk levels you can see in your organization. And it will give you that on 26 September, there were 1 critical event. High was 1, medium was 0, low was 6, and 8 was total incidents happen during that day. Here you get all the incidents from your NEO. NEO means the IOB based detection. So here you get IOB based detection as well as DLP based detection. All are contributing to your risk scores. So if I click on only DLP, only NEO, you get all these things like data access, 124 alerts are there, defense evasion, 75 alerts, data exfiltration, 127 alerts. All these things are being given on a dashboard to give you an entire view about what is happening in my organization. And if I click on DLP also, so there are a lot of other activities which happen like data exfiltration. You have any file alerts, customer DB alerts. So all these DLP related incidents are also coming in. Here you got your IOBs like, successful inbound remote desktop authentication, and you have got all the timeline here that what exactly happened in last 30 days in your organization, if you want to have a view. Apart from that, we also have a view for channels, that what all channel has contributed in your data exfiltration and other things. So you can see that you have web channel, you have printers, you have clipboard activities, and the percentage of their contribution in overall breaches or risk scores of identified by the DUP system. I'll just take an example of a user. So I'll just go to this user like James Jones. And what do we get on this? So in James Jones, we get an entire timeline for this James Jones. I'll go to the user insights. And in the user insights, you get to know that, okay, for this user, the overall risk, what kind of risk he has been posing in the organization, what is the overall trend in his risk profiling in the organization, and what are the top events which are occurred. So you can see there are events like fingerprinting sample. So it will give you the destination detail. So all analytics, whether it is a DLP or normal activity happening on the machine, all the analytics are given in a single pane. You need not to go to any other console to detect what is happening. So your analyst will look into this dashboard and they'll come to know that what exactly been happening on this machine. So I'll take you to one of the activities here. You can see that this is a successful inbound remote desktop authentication. It's not a DLP event, it's an IOB event. Okay, so IOB means your, so we have around, I said around 100 plus IOBs right now. So it will give you that there's an application which was run on the machine. It is a Windows security auditing tool. It's a network type, IP, and all the forensics will also be given in the same dashboard. It's all happening on the single endpoint. It's all giving you, it's giving all the details on a single endpoint. All right. Apart from that, you will also get DLP capability incidents also. So it will give you that from a DLP, it breached this policy. Action by blocked by user. So that means user has got a confirm option on which he chose to block this. Okay, user chose to block this because he thought that he's breaching a policy and destination is this. And the forensic will also be coming in the DUP dashboard. So you get entire timeline about the user and what he has been doing on the machine. With IOBs and DLP detection, it enriches the system. And not only this, you see that you can get the overall risk impact, the current impact of the user. The current impact is 27 because these risks will decay over the period of time. So it will not like that Akshay is today on 100, Akshay will remain on 100 for next 1 year. No, my risk will decay based on my activities over the period of time. So my risk score will eventually come down if these were normal activities. And it will also show you the time remaining for the risk decay. Okay, so in next 2 days, this risk impact will become 0 and the user will be healthy again. So you get all the information and details on this DUP dashboard. And I just wanted to give you a glimpse, a sneak peek on this dashboard, that how does it look like, what all information you can get. If you are interested, we can definitely get into further on one-to-one discussions going later to give you more clarity that how will it work and how it can solve your problems in the long run. So I think that is it from my end, and I believe we have finished it well under time. So back to you, Vikas.
Great, Akshay. Amazing session. Really appreciate you taking out time and sharing your knowledge. Guys, we have good about 23 minutes. So let's do some live Q&A. If you want to ask a live question, please raise your hand and then we will unmute you and then you can ask your question. Meanwhile, there have been a lot of questions in the Q&A tab, and thanks for your participation, active participation. A lot of questions were already answered, but let's see if somebody wants to ask live question. I see Mr. Satyendra Kumar Tiwari has raised hand. So Satyendra ji, I'm going to unmute you. No, I don't have permission. Jagdish, you would have to do that. Maybe make Satyendra as panelist and he can unmute himself. Okay, I'm host now. Okay, allowed to talk. Satyendra ji, go ahead, unmute yourself, ask your question.
No, I don't want to ask any question. It was wrongly pressed. Sorry for that.
Okay, then lower your hand, otherwise you will get some pain because it has been up for a while now.
Sorry, sir.
Great, thank you. Anybody else wants to ask any question? Please raise your hand. Okay, so few folks have raised hand. Let me go to participants and I'm going to allow to talk Mr. Prabhakar, Mr. Mahesh. Okay, great. So, yeah, Prabhakar ji, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah. Okay, you go ahead. Yeah.
Mahesh Kumar. And it was very good session I have seen. So there are lots of things are covered into the same. So can we get the recordings or can we get the slides of the particular session so that we're going to be done in the future as well? Or any questions, then whom can we connect? Send your email IDs or any contact number details so that we're going to connect Forcepoint.
Right, so slides and recording will be available. Jagdish will send the slides to me and we will upload it on YouTube channel. And what was the second part? You want connect for Forcepoint, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can somebody put it in the chat, your contact, so that participants can contact you in case they need additional information? Prabhakar ji, go ahead, ask your question now, please.
Thanks, because so just wanted to check whether whatever features we spoke now, like, will it support a heterogeneous environment? For example, I have a lot of Windows PCs. I'm sure Windows is supported for all these features, but can we also protect a Linux environment or a Mac environment? Is my question. Like, because we use a lot of Linux desktop operating systems, we use a lot of Ubuntu for a day-to-day use. So how do we protect that? Or is it only possible to protect the Windows environment?
So Prabhakar, I think you have raised a very relevant question. I think it's the need of an hour and it's an high time, I would say, because Linux has been a pain area for a very long time now for different endpoint vendors as well as for the customers. So currently, what Forcepoint is offering is we are protecting all Macs at this moment and all Windows servers machines. As far as Linux is concerned, currently we do not do it at this point in time, if you ask me. But there are certain things which are happening internally. I cannot comment on that at this point in time because they are not officially released. But yes, we are actually looking forward to give some sort of capability on Linux environment. The challenge with Linux is that they are open source. People, the developers or the users change the operating system based on their requirement. They can change libraries, they can change a lot of kernel versions, and there's a lot of dynamics and moving parts in a Linux environment, and that is why it has been a challenge. Earlier we used to do it, but after looking at the dynamics of Linux, the organization stopped it some time back. But in future, definitely we are trying to do that. But how much time will it take? I'm not sure. But yes, there would be something coming out for Linux in some time.
Okay, thanks for your response. But there is another operation challenge, like, for example, I have my delivery head who has a Windows laptop. Okay, so we block everything for her. Okay, and I have a a trainer developer. Okay, so he chose to use Linux and he has all the options. So that's kind of the challenge what we have. And
yes, so one thing which you can consider, because the problem, at least for a roaming user, it's still a problem, because for a roaming you need to have an endpoint. But as far as your on-premise machines are concerned, on-premise, or where you have where you have machines behind a firewall or behind something in a controlled environment, there you can create tunnels to the Forcepoint cloud, and from there you will not be needing an agent, and you can still apply policies on Linux machines. But from a roaming user perspective, endpoint is needed, which is currently not available.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that.
Great. Yogesh, go ahead, ask your question, please. Okay, Vijay ji, unmute yourself and ask your question, please. Your hand is raised, so if you want to ask a question, you got to unmute yourself. Yeah, Vijay ji, go ahead. Yeah, I think they are not able to speak, so that's okay. I think nobody.
Maybe you can type your questions in the Q&A. I can take them from there and answer them.
But I see myself as unmuted.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can hear you.
Ask your question.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Thanks. The question is the similar one as I posted in the Q&A. Nice session. It is good that you have put a lot of things in the endpoint agent also. But if my endpoint has a specific need for only preventing one particular application, like a booking supervisor for the freight operations terminal, then won't this heavy client be a drag on the system resources at the endpoint?
So if you want to have specific controls, okay, so one thing is that the endpoint build. Definitely, if you are doing things on an endpoint, I would not say that it's the heaviest endpoint in the industry right now. We are trying to create the most lightest endpoint in the industry so far. And there are certain updates which I can give you on an endpoint since you have touched this part. The new endpoint which we have launched is a game changer in the cybersecurity industry. It will be the lightest endpoint ever made. no reboots required. We are going towards an era where we will be creating the endpoints browser agnostic. So no browser extensions, nothing will be required. So it will be a wonderful agent. Now I'll come to your question where you want to only control a specific app. Then the user will only get specific policies on his particular machine. And, I don't see a much heavy utilization on that particular machine if data or if, if anything else is accessed on the machine, which is breaching the policy, because the user would not be having that any other policy. He will not be breaching it. So your overall performance of the machine will stay impacted. So I don't see, because we have large customers, very, very large customers, like 500,000 users who are still using endpoints on their machines and hundreds of policies. Still they are good, still they are okay. Definitely the more policies you enforce on that user, the more analysis will happen on the endpoint, and system can be impacted. But yes, we can fine tune the policies. We can keep a balance in controlling all those things, because we have to control business and security both. So in that scenario, we can do it.
I get it. Another question, related question is that we are deploying in a lot of places thick clients. They are not full PCs. They are PCs with fixed OS in the flash. Will these type of clients have issues with updating them or applying policies in such a flash OS clients?
So we have, I'm sure you're talking about thin clients where you don't have any compute or any OS. It's just a connection to a VDI system where you connect.
No. Okay. Sorry. It's a thick client. It is not a PC with a hard disk and all. It's a thick client. It has a fixed database inside it of our fare tables and things like that, but they are not changed. They are changed in the lab and then sent to the site. There is no site modifiable component in that.
So how do you, as far as I understood, it's a fixed kind of a PC where everything is hardened already. You cannot do things. Right. So in that case, if our endpoint, so if you don't have anything, what kind of actions users can do? Users, can they access websites? Can they access data? Can they access applications? How does it work actually?
Applications. There are applications like the PRS, UTS, and voice. Some applications some are web-based, some are client-based. Client server architecture, older one. So they are already pre-installed on the flash, and then they are sent to that place, and the replacement is also with a fixed client only. PCs are only given to officers and the higher level clients.
Okay, so I think the risk exposure on those machines is pretty low. I cannot comment at this point in time because I need to see that environment, that how does it work. But yes, I think the SASE.
Let us take it offline.
Yeah, we can take it offline.
Great.
Only one thing which I want to add here is that if it's a protection against the application, if you want to monitor what the users are doing with the Sensen application, probably we can implement the CASB solution because the rest of the things is already hardened. So there is no room for the user to do anything on those systems. With respect to the application, CASB can be implemented, and CASB can help you in getting the visibility that what users are doing with those applications. Okay, and you can capture the information that what kind of activities they are doing on those on those applications, which are, though it's a Sensen application, but if you want to get the granular visibility, you can collect that information.
The other thing which I would like to add here is, because CASB is one thing which Taral sir has mentioned. One thing which is needed to understand here is that these applications which you are trying to monitor or protect should be owned by you, or the instance, SaaS application instance should be owned by you. so that you can integrate your instance with a cloud security solution like CASB or any SASE solution, right? If it is something which is not owned by you, it is something owned by someone else, then it may be a challenge. Otherwise, we can deploy the application monitoring.
Server side monitoring is always available. That we can understand that on the server side, whatever one client is accessing or using the app, that we can monitor at the server end. So there is not an issue with that monitoring on the cloud or on the
No, we are talking about user monitoring when he's accessing that app. What is he doing? What transactions is he doing? When he's logging, when he's logging out, what type of activities he's doing on that app. We're talking about that monitoring from that channel, not the server monitoring. Okay.
Great. I think offline you can further contact Akshay, Vijayji, and you can have more insights around that. So that was the last question, guys, 121. So thanks again for joining. A very engaging session delivered by Forcepoint team. And 3.5 hours, a pretty long workshop, and I see 160 people still online. So really appreciate you guys taking time out and joining the session. If you want a certificate, right, the participation certificate, like the one you see on the screen, what you can do is go to EliteCISOs website, which is www.elitecisos.com. Click on events, click on upcoming events, and you will come to this page. Click on CPE certificate. And this will take you to another Google form. Put your email address over here, put your full name, and the secret to download your participation certificate is SASE. Once you enter it, you will get this kind of certificate over your email. Now, once you are here on the website, as I said initially that we conduct, So as you know that we conduct webinars every Thursday, 11 o'clock India time. So next week we are conducting this session with Netscope, again around SASE, right? SASE has been a hot cake. Everybody is kind of talking about SASE. So if you want to hear a different opinion from different partner, so attend this session with Netscope, and again we will hear a different point of view in terms of what their approach is for solving challenges and how their SASE adoption or SASE technology can help us. So if you want to register for that, go over here and click on register now. So if you're on website, and let me mention about the membership as well. So EliteCISO is a community of CIOs and CISOs. If you want to be part of our closed WhatsApp groups, you can go to the membership section and apply for the membership. We will put you in a separate WhatsApp group. There are WhatsApp group for different chapters. Those are city-wise groups that we have. So like Mumbai, Delhi, Kolkata, and all, we have got different chapters across India. So we'll put you in that particular group. Now, apart from, conducting all these technology sessions, we focus a lot on fitness. And there's a separate fitness group as well. And there's a yoga group and there's a fitness group. So fitness is more focused towards sports like walking, running, gymming and all. So if you want to join a WhatsApp group of CIOs and CISOs who are into fitness, you can again go to this section. And if for yoga, you can register over here. And if for general fitness group, which is like running and walking and all, you can register here as well. With that, what everybody is kind of waiting for is the Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune we run in every single session, and we give away a nice gadget. Sometimes it is Amazon Alexa, sometimes it is Apple AirPods, and today we are going to give away a smart watch. Okay, everybody who has put the registration in is part of this Wheel of Fortune. We have filtered out the Gmails and the Hotmails of the world. We do not entertain the personal email IDs. It has to be a business email ID. So if you registered with a business email ID, you are part of this Wheel of Fortune. I'm going to spin it. If your name comes, go to the chat window and say, yes, you are there. Okay. Good luck, everyone. I'm going to spin it now. Let's see who the lucky winner is going to be. You have to be quick enough, right? Go to the chat and say yes if your name comes. Rajan Arora, very nice. Ajay, see what you said. Rajan won the Kahoot quiz and he's won the Wheel of Fortune as well. Awesome, Rajan.
Lucky, it's your day today.
Yeah,
Are
it's
these
not-
both connected? I mean, Kahoot and this thing? I mean, this
No,
is
no, no,
being
they're
a little
totally
biased.
separate. They're totally separate. Okay, guys, congratulations again, Rajan. I'm glad that it stays in the Delhi chapter. Okay, great. That's about it. 1:25, perfect timing. Thanks, Forcepoint team. Amazing delivery, amazing session. And thanks everyone for joining in. See you on Thursday. Bye for now.
Because I have a small request here to all the participants.
Sure.
So whenever they're uploading the certificates on LinkedIn, it'll be great if they can tag Forcepoint or maybe do hashtag Forcepoint. That'll be really great.
Yeah, that will be great, right? So somebody asked the password or the secret for certificate. The secret is SASE in small. You can go to events, upcoming event section and click on CP certificate link to get your certificate. And once you upload the certificate on LinkedIn, we would really appreciate if you can tag Forcepoint and say hashtag Forcepoint. So that's about it. Enjoy remaining of your weekend, guys. Bye for now.
Thank you all. Been a great session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.